Yeah. Just as I sat back down, I hear the bitty noise going. Hi, lovelies. Let me pop up my screen. There we go. Hi. Let me see. So, thank you, Aura, my darling bestie, for the follow. Scott, you little gremlin, thank you for the biddies. I finally beat the silly little goose off a capture bar. Oh, awesome, bestie, little biddies. Hello, mwah, darling, how are you? Hi. I just had to put the dog in the kitchen because as soon as he saw me put my headphones on, I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this today. Not when I'm trying to read. He's a very chaotic dog. Most of you know. He barks in, and I was like, nope, not while I'm reading creepypastas today. But yes, I have my little comfort friends around here. We got our lovely Nozomi teddy bear for you to cuddle. I'm gonna need to go for a carb nap soon. Also need to, I hate bin days. Chaotic Bork Boy, yes. Also, for everyone who's new here and my regulars, I'm Nozomi, the Welsh Pan Dragon. Welcome to Raven's Hollow. Today is Fright Friday, which means creepy pastas, which is super fun. I thought I'd have a nice chill stream ready for before we hit the chaos tomorrow, which, as most of you know, will be the Pick Your Poison, Would You Rather evening after dark with our lovely guests Elysian, Tricky, Sakura, Callista, Ambrosia, and Intro. I'm super excited. They'll be dotted around on this screen with me tomorrow. But for now, we have Teddy Bear Nozomi. You can give him all the cuddles you would like. We have lovely little baby Nozo. She's there coloring you a nice picture of a heart. You can give her head pats all you want. Most of you know Zombunny, who lives on my head. And of course we got Drabunny. Drabunny's here too. I do need to give them some names, so you're always free to suggest names. And Scott's already filled Ghost Nozo's little bitty cup. And we have other little Chib Nozo. Little Chibi Chib. With her snakes. It's jellyfish and snakes. One or the other. But yes. I did have a big cry this morning because it was happy tears. I checked my email this morning and some lovely had ordered a whole bunch of snacks and stuff off my throne today. And I was like, I'm spending so much money on poor Nozo. Because they heard I was having a bit of a bad tummy day, you know. Mother Nature curses the dragon as always. And basically it was like, feel better, take all the snacks. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm still not over the fact that Scott got me Levi yesterday. I'm like, sir. But I'm also going to be working on the VTuber talk show that's going to be happening in December, which will be awesome. No proof. Sir, ma'am, Mr. Gremlin, gremlin, sir. I checked my emails. You weren't anonymous, sir. I knew it was you. Yes, VTuber talk show, bestie. So, basically, it's going to be, we're going to have a lovely selection of throne chairs up here in my lovely hollow. Basically, I'm going to be giving VTubers a chance to come on, answer questions from the community about their VTubing career, their model. They can talk about their lore, likes, dislikes, you know. So they can sort of like spread their brand a bit more as well, and you know, we can all have fun. And also, so the smaller VTubers, can shine a bit more compared to like the big VTuber companies and stuff. Like, because we might not be with companies, we might be independent, but we all still very much matter. And I think it'd be really nice. Plus, I think VTuber Prom is coming up, so you won't catch Nozo in a dress right now because, you know, art funds cost money. Yes, the little baby VTubers matter. They do indeed, my darlings. And it'd be a crime if Nozo didn't support them. Because everybody knows Mama Nozo. Or apparently, I get it. I've been harnessing some shrimps myself. I'm just like, oh, thank you so much. It makes my day. I'm just like, thank you. They're just very precious. So exciting news. I'll be getting... I need to know what tattoo. Scott, let's go. I was supposed to paint my nails today as well. VTuber Prom. I wasn't gonna be a VTuber and now I have all of these things to do. Yes, I know. Oh yes, you're getting the demisexual flag. I'm so happy. I want to get something. I want to get like something with the pan flag on it at some point. I might get a Pandragon, tiny Pandragon or something. I don't know. Might even get a little chibi Nozo holding it up in a heart. I haven't decided yet. But mainly I think for prom, I'm just gonna do what I normally do. Have some of my friends over and torture them with my Would You Rather games, because that's super fun for me. I love spending time with my friends, totally not torturing them. I've already got the non-binary flag on my... Ooh! That's cool, that's cool. Valid. Yes, valid. It's always valid. I've got my tea. I've got my pop. I've got my book. I'm excited for today. Plus, I've also have some more chaotic browser games to play later on, if we have time. But what is new with everybody as well? Because, you know, I like to hear how you guys are getting on. I like to know how you're all doing. How are things here? 3 tattoos. I need to get more, but I'm also debating buying a house. You're going... Oh, yeah, you're going for the house route. There's a house on my street that's currently for sale. And I'm like, it looks so nice. I'll definitely get the house first, bestie. You've been, like, in the process of trying to get the house for ages. You know. And plus, you could find the right house. Don't wait to get it. You know, if you're able to get the house, then you just know. Yeah, there's a house on my street I see every morning, and it's for sale, and it's like, it looks so pretty, and I'm like, it's definitely out of my budget. Yeah, because I've been wanting to get a bigger house, you know, especially one that just, you know, we have a better garden and stuff like that, which would be nice, but everything costs money. So I think we're gonna like prioritize sorting out the garden first. If you do get it, he'll definitely come visit. Housewarming. Yes. Scott would though. Scott would travel to Scotland. Scott's just there. I'm coming. Just comes with his bag of bits and just throws it at everyone. Yeah, Scott has chosen the way chat will go today. It's gremlin mode. I have also, I think, disabled my ads for today. I'm not sure though. You'll have to let me know. I know pre-rolls, you can't get rid of flipping pre-rolls right at the beginning. I'm down for you all to come to my housewarming when I buy a house. Oh, traveling's like, is so far for me. Like, everywhere just seems so far and expensive. I went to visit my sister in Birmingham at the start of August. And that was like a 2 to 3 hour train ride. And it was just so hectic. Because my sense of direction... I'm so bad at directions. Like, I get lost in Minecraft. Even if I left myself a torch trail, y'all, I'm getting lost. So that, yeah, that pretty much sums out, like, my journey times. I'm like, just stare at a map for a while, and I'm like, okay. At least in the hollow here, I know where I'm going, which is all fun. All fun. And also for our new friends, I know you're lurking around in my chat. You'll find my bits there, bits and bobs. You'll also find other information and tidbits about myself in my Twitch panels and all the fun stuff, as well as the Twitter profile for the lovely person who made my starting soon jingle, and the one you find on my intermission screen. So do feel free to give them a look as well. Ugh. But yes. I hope everybody is doing very, very well. And I hope you are ready. Okay, here's the question. Are we talking the wholesome housewarming or the... There's a lewd version of housewarming, Scott. Am I missing something? Am I missing something here, Scott? What is the lewd version of housewarming? Or am I stupid? Am I missing... What? No, I can't think of it. Scott, I need answers. A housewarming orgy. Oh. I mean, it's gotta be a big house if you want, like... What is the minimum for an orgy? Is that 4? Is that 4? Yeah, I think it's 4. Yeah. It's a Scottish housewarming after all. Do we all have to wear kilts? Do we need to serenade you with the bagpipes, bestie? I will learn the bagpipes for you, baby girl. I will learn those bagpipes. Definitely. Oh my god. Scottish housewarming, Jesus. And then we all lay our heads down to sleep on a lovely warm haggis. Because why not? Awesome. So, are you ready to partake in Fright Friday? I must have at least 10 pet haggy. Yes! Yes. We should get them collars. I'd say 5 to 6 people minimum for an orgy. What do they call the 4 then? Because you've got 3 is the threesome. I don't think they'd say foursome. I've never heard somebody say a foursome. A what? I've never heard somebody say a foursome. I need to get out more. But then that means I have to see other people. I mean, I'd totally be down to seeing you guys and giving you hugs. You're people I'd like to see. All the other people outside it. No, gross. I end up turning into like the most politest person anytime somebody talks to me as well, especially old people. Old people are like a curse. Like, it's they'll come up to me and they'll be like, "Excuse me, can you help me?" And I just go, Yeah, of course I can. Even though if I'm running late for something, it's one of those like, no, I will prioritize everything for this cute little old lady named Janet because she needs directions or she needs help. I may be bad at directions, but I will do my best to help a little old lady. If I'm not in a group of 3 people, then I seem shy or standoffish. I cover my shyness and my awkwardness by pretty much doing what I do now. I talk. And because I feel this like immense pressure to fill the silence. I don't like awkward silences. But it's something I'm still trying to work with. You know, you think I'm really like friendly and polite and stuff. No, I'm just terrified of making friends. I'm terrified of people. Yes, bestie. Like, they're like, oh, you're so outgoing. No, I am super introverted. But to cover up my shyness and like my awkwardness, I will talk. Like, I can be the most outgoing person in dire crisis. Like, I worked retail before I became a VTuber. And they put me front of store, which meant customer greeting. I was on the till. I ramble the more sleepy I get. Oh, sort something out. Oh. Let's check your stream settings. Okay, that should be fine. Something out. Why does it sound so, like, ominous, bro? It'd be very, very ominous. But, it's one of those people just sort of seem to think I'm super friendly and I'm super nice. It's like, no. I'm terrified of people unless I like you. If I ever did like a meet and greet for my fans and stuff, like I'd be like freaking out inside because it's like you guys hear a lot of me. I'm also considering a immersion break on Twitter around December time because I own a Christmas dress. I'm surprised she didn't go the other way. I'm say so with sarcasm, Scott. But basically, I've got a Christmas dress, a Mrs. Santa Christmas dress, and I'm thinking of maybe doing a goal to show you guys the dress, and like a face reveal on Twitter. I don't know yet. I don't know what the idea of that would be for people, because I know some people have actually seen what I look like. And apparently I'm adorable. No, lies. But that might be something I might consider for my Twitter in December. Might give them a goal, because I did reach 400 on Twitter, then found out I had to purge a bunch of bots and, like, you know, minors out of there. I was like, please no, because we must respect boundaries. I will swear like a sailor, and I can be, as some say, a closet pervert. But no, well, we'll see how much of a pervert I am tomorrow. I will fully come to Wales to meet you. Oh, you are more than welcome to, sweetheart. My town is very small, but, you know, it's, I'd love to actually, you know, have you come visit one day, but, you know, travel costs money, and you need to get a house first. But yes, definitely. I think at some point I could organize a Zoom, like, meet and greet in the future if people would be down for that, or a Discord one. I think Discord would be better because, you know, we're cool like that. We're not lame enough for Zoom. But definitely, like, yeah, I've got ideas. I have ideas, and I will be opening up chibi commissions again, and my voice acting script and story commissions. You know, fanfic commissions, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I write fan fiction because, you know, you gotta dabble. But yes. Are we all ready to get our spook on? Because even though Halloween's over, it will still live on. Creepypastas are a must. And I will at least try to aim to do a story time every couple of weeks or so. Otherwise, it's just chaos and chaos. And Nozomi's got a cough again. God damn. Fully come to Wales. I would recommend it. Just bring your umbrella. Because we get rain. And it's so sad because all the nice autumn leaves have fallen on the floor. But because of all the rain, they're all soggy. So I don't get to do my crunchies. I want to do my crunchies on the leaves. I like stomping and crunching the leaves. Yes, I'm a child at heart. So, our first story is called Your Secret Admirer by Creeps McPaster. Hope you're sitting comfortably. I am writing to tell you how I really feel. You probably didn't notice, but for the longest time, I've always been there for you. I want you to know what I've done, and I hope by me opening up to you like this, you will feel the same way for me, and we can be happy together, forever. I remember when we were both 13 years old, when you first transferred to my school. As soon as you walked in, I thought you were the most beautiful girl in the world. When your tranquil blue eyes crossed mine, even though it was for a brief moment, as you scanned across the strange faces in the class, I wanted to be with you, forever. I was heartbroken straight away though, when you were paired off with some other guy to show you around the school. You didn't really notice me much. You were always with your group of friends who were so different from mine. Who am I kidding? I never really had any friends. The one thing that got me through all those years of loneliness in school was watching you, admiring everything you did. The way you gracefully went through your day, without faults, simply left me in awe, day in and day out. As the years went by, you seemed pretty popular with both the guys and the girls. You were sought after by all the popular guys in the school, even by some of the older ones. But you shrugged them off. The girls loved how you looked after yourself. You always had your makeup and hair perfect, which made you admired, but hated. It's sad, but it's human nature to get jealous, and we are all guilty of this crime. What they ended up doing, however, was far out of line. I saw, as they pushed you when the teachers weren't looking. They would shove you into any nearby object, which more often than not was the wall. When you stumbled and slammed into the wall, the teachers would simply turn and say, "Watch where you're going, dear," and go about their business, blissfully unaware of what actually happened. Witnessing it happen every other day burned me up inside, seeing you have this torment for being better than them. It was painful to watch every time it happened. I hoped it would die down, but it got worse. I saw when the bullies would knock your drink over when you weren't expecting it, just because the most popular guy asked you out. I was there when they set your bag on fire in the woodwork class because they thought you were being condescending when you tried to help them with their work. And I caught a glimpse of the one time they actually threw you to the ground outside the school gates and kicked you until you cried, simply because you tried to tell the teacher about what they were doing. After that incident, they followed you home. Usually, they wouldn't do anything but yell abuse at you. The worst part was never knowing when they'd snap and suddenly attack you. It tore me apart to see the girl I loved feel so vulnerable. I wanted to fix it. I knew there were 3 main bullies that were consistent. I knew of more, but they seemed to only do it out of peer pressure. The main culprit was that narcissistic whore Bethany. Beth was jealous of everything about you. All the things I mentioned that made you great burned her up inside. She used to be the centre of attention, and my gosh, did she love it. All the guys wanted to be with her, and all the guys wanted to be her. Girls wanted to be her. The only difference is that she used it for her own personal gain, and ultimately abused it. She slept with most of the guys who showered her in gifts that their mommies and daddies paid for. She only hung around with girls she deemed lower than herself, and demeaned them so they wouldn't be a threat to her God complex. But slowly, over the years of you being in the school, she eventually lost her reputation. Because then all the attention was on you. The second deviant who had a disgruntled grudge against you was that arsehole Chris. He asked you to go to the school's annual dance in front of both his friends and yours, and you simply rejected him, like the many others. But what made this instance different was that he ran off crying. He was publicly embarrassed, which in school meant a lot. He denied liking you and lost his friends and reputation. So he took out his frustrations on who he thought caused all of it. You. The last person was Julie. She had it bad for you ever since the guy she liked always talked about how amazing you were while not paying attention to her, even after she performed some, well, let's say desperate deeds for him. During the last week of school, I knew they had something special planned for you, so I took it into my hands to deal with it, because I love you, and I didn't want your last few days at school to be ruined. The first person I convinced not to mess with you anymore was Chris. Now, he was much stronger than me, being into all the school sports, plus the alleged steroids, meant I would not be able to take him in a simple one-on-one fight. But in the end, that would be his downfall. I knew where he kept his steroids. It wasn't hard to figure out. Since our school's security and reputation were so low, there was no need to hide it. I got his locker's combination by saying I forgot mine. The teacher handed over a list of everyone's combinations. Yeah, that's right. They have no sense of security in this school. I cracked open his locker with ease, leaving no trace of it ever being opened. I found the next shot he was going to use and squirted a little bit out, then pulled the plunger back out to where it was leaving a considerably sized air bubble. I figured Chris was no doctor, nor does he have a clue how things work. He simply injects himself, then trains in the school gym. I bought a pass for the gym and watched as I pretended to train. He eventually came in the gym laughing hysterically with his friends. Enjoy it while you can. It's not like it's going to last, was the thought that cropped into my head. He went to his locker, and not long later came out dressed up in his training attire with a determined look on his face. He was ready to start. He was fine for a while, but eventually slowed down. He had a puzzled look on his face as his body slowly gave up, and eventually the cardiac arrest set in, and he was on the floor. People tried CPR, but there was no defibrillator around, since it was a school full of teenagers. Who would expect a heart attack in a place like this? I smiled and walked out before the paramedics arrived. It was already too late for him. Working my way down the list, Julie was next. She was always jealous of the way every guy liked you. I silently slipped through her window without her noticing. I knew her parents were out, so if she made a noise, no one would immediately come to her aid. I pounced on her while she was sleeping and pinned her down. I tied her hands to the bedpost and then her legs. I pulled out several jars from my bag, each one almost black. Upon closer inspection, if you looked carefully at the gaps, you would see small movements. They were full of all the creepy crawlies one would typically find in the bottom of anyone's garden. I took my time filling these up with every insect I could find. I wanted her to understand the pain you must have felt all the time she was shouting abuse at you, hurting you, making you feel lower than you really are. I propped her mouth open with one of those plastic rings a dentist would use for a long procedure. I slowly poured each jar down her throat. Every time her screaming was muffled a little further by the buzzing and scuttling noises of bugs were making as they were adjusted to their new home. Tears streamed down her face as I repeated how all of this was for you. A few jars in, and I could feel the bugs in her stomach where I was sitting the whole time. By this time, she had pretty much passed out from the pain. When this happened, I'd wait, pour water on her face, and slap her until she responded. For punishment, I'd take off the ring from her mouth and pour the water down her throat, making her swallow the insects and causing them to go on a frenzy of panic. Eventually, during the 5th jar, the pain of all the insects burrowing into her internal organs, plus all the internal bleeding, caused her to pass away. But not peacefully, of course. I saved the worst until last. I had something special planned for Bethany. She was by far the worst to you. She made your life a living hell, and this was unacceptable. No one as perfect as you should ever have had the displeasure of even knowing these people. So I carefully set the pieces and waited. One day I skipped my class, but no one noticed, not even the teacher. This shows how much attention I got in school. By this time, I had memorized her route home. I waited in an archway I knew she walked past every day. I waited and thought about what I was going to do and how it was all for you. When I caught sight of her, I grabbed her and pulled her to the ground. She was kicking and screaming, but at this point in her journey home, there was no one around. The archway was to an abandoned, derelict church. I dragged her away from the path and towards the building so no witnesses would intervene and no one would find her body anytime soon. I did my routine of tying her arms and legs to secure posts, so I knew there wouldn't be much of a struggle. I also gagged her, as I knew she would be making a lot of noise for what I was about to do. I slowly pulled out my knife, making sure she caught sight of the shiny glimmer. I placed the point of it on her lower leg and smiled as she reacted to the sharp point of the blade. I slowly pushed down, making sure the wound was clean as it slipped into her flesh. It took a while, but eventually the knife's handle was touching her skin. I took my time pulling it out, making sure the wound did not rupture with that easy. Ooh, I've lost my place. The wound did not rupture with that easily recognised crimson liquid. That would have meant her death, and that would be too easy. As soon as the tip of the knife exited her body, I immediately wrapped the split up with bandage, applying enough pressure to cut down the bleeding to a minimum. I then placed the knife a little higher up her leg, doing the same thing. I stared into her eyes as she helplessly watched me do this over and over, all over her body. After every stab, I would say a remark about how you didn't deserve what she did to you. Eventually, her whole body was nothing but red bandages. She was barely conscious as I slipped the final blow through her heart. I can imagine you're screaming about now. In fact, I know you will be, and I will be close enough to hear. And by you stopping, I know you've gotten to this point in my letter, so I'll start making my way in. It's pretty easy to get into your house now, after doing it so many times. You probably thought it was your parents who left this letter in your room in the first place. No, it was me. Don't be afraid of the noise downstairs. It's only me. Put down the phone. I know by now you've got it in your hand. I cut the phone line. Don't bother calling your parents. I've already silenced them. You can stop your screaming now. I am most likely right outside your door. Unlock it now, and soon it will be just you and me, together forever. Lots of love, your secret admirer. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm doing well, Joey, and welcome, Ro. How you doing? How we doing, Reaper? What about your nips, my dear sir? Oh, I like that one. That was a creepy yandere vibe. You got your wiggle on, dude. I like that though. I am doing very well. I'm tabbed out to hear about nips. Sorry, what? Oh yeah, Reaper's showing off his nips, as always. Yes. You might be able to hear the Dooge barking in the kitchen, as always. He's being a big baby. But yeah, I'm doing good. Just finished reading our first story of the night. I think Yandere Nozomi should make a we showing off, are we? Oh, always. But yes, he's I'm thinking Nozomi Yandere arc might be cool. I might compile a couple of audios for that. Oh, welcome back, Scott. What you been up to there, sir? You been up to anything sus? Oh. Loved the reading you just did. I only heard the middle of it, but loved hearing you read. Oh, hello, Raiden, my darling. Thank you. I have plenty. I do have plenty lined up. You're okay. My dude just being the silly dude today. Why would I be so... What have you been doing? You said you were doing something in brackets earlier. So I want to know what you were doing, sir. Sounded very suspicious. Yeah, I'm thinking of maybe putting together a couple of Yandere voice scripts and stuff. I don't know yet. Some personal stuff. That's fair. I might do some personal voice commissions as well. Little wholesome things. Little reminders from Nozomi to wake up, take your medicines, all the fun stuff. And birthday ones, because, you know, I think cute birthday messages from your favorite VTubers is fucking cute as shit. Like, so my birthday was was just in August this year. But for the most part, I don't get too much like traction for my birthday. But since I'd come to Discord, like, you know, if people found out it was my birthday, they'd be like, happy birthday. Or I'd organize a drunk VC for like a couple of years ago. But this year I didn't really do anything for my birthday. I actually went out for my birthday this year. And then I came back to my Discord server, and one of my lovely moderators, they had put up a nice message, and I received a lot of really nice well wishes, and I got teary-eyed, and I was like, people care for Nozomi, which I think was really nice. I'm still getting used to the fact that people like my content and like my voice, even though I like to do funny voices sometimes. But yes. Are you all ready for another tale? If your voice was tangible, I'd lick it. I mean, Reaper, you said you'd jiggle me today and wiggle me. Could you do a funny voice real quick? Just one.
Well, Raiden, what do you want me to say?
You're welcome. I like to do voices. It's how, you know, I wouldn't be me if I didn't do voices. And sometimes if we're playing games and stuff, I try to give the characters. I come back to Jiggle. Thank. Oh, I'm glad you liked it. I do have a Yoshi redeem as well, Raiden as well. So there's that in the jelly points.
I got my tea.
But yes, we have another story to tell you today. Of course, Paolo. Hello, my jelly baby. Yes, that one.
Losu.
There you go, sweetie. I hope you liked it. How are you doing, Paolo? I hope you're well, my favorite jelly VTuber. Oh, I'm so glad to hear. I hope work's not been too difficult. I've missed having you here, but it's so lovely to see you here today. Oh, I'm glad. I've kidnapped Paolo. Paolo is my. I was introduced to Paolo because they're jellyfish, and one of my friends was like, "Knows of me? I found a jellyfish VTuber," and I didn't even know Paolo before then. And I just went, "Send me them. I need to see them." I was in their inbox going, "Where is their link? I must see the jellyfish." And then I was linked to Paolo, and I was like, "He's mine now. I'm keeping them. They're mine." And I've claimed Paolo as my jellyfish. I think I'd do the same for any other ones, any other jellies. A wise decision, of course. Paolo is my jellyfish now. But yes, very cute. But also deadly. They're super pretty to look at, but they're very deadly. That's what I tell people when they ask why I don't like jellyfish. Well, why I like jellyfish. You're the pet. You're amazing. You get taken care of. That is a high honor. To be taken care of by Nozomi. Joey will tell you. Joey knows how caring I am. I take care of all my babies. But even when I put my dude in the kitchen, he wants to be a center of attention. He's like, "Notice me, Mom." Aw, thank you for the biddies, Scott. Thank you. Oh, you're so sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you. The gremlin mode is activated from Scott today. There's no stopping Scott. He's been quiet for a couple of days. Oh my goodness. If I have to, mute myself to take care of a dude, I will not be happy. Oh dear. But we shall move into our second tale of the evening. Oh, more biddies, Scott. Thank you for the 20 biddies. Oh, it's the cute little narwhal little snowman. Oh, I need to decorate the hollow for Christmas time soon. That's gonna be fun. Maybe get some tinsel, a little Santa hat. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun. Yes. Snowman Nozo. So this story is called Bubbles. Oh my god, 10 biddies. Scott, you little gremlin. Thank you, sweetheart. You're absolutely adorable. You're so kind. You're spoiling me, sirs. Lovely peoples and my babies. You want me to cry again? Nozomi's emotional today. Filling the cup. You're filling a little Nozo's cup. Oh, look at her happy face. It's okay. I still can't get over you buying me the Levi figure. Like when I saw it, I was like, after my stream yesterday, I may have freaked out someone just going, oh my god, oh my god. Oh, 20 biddies. Thank you. Oh, little Nozomi's appreciated. It's overflowing, bless. Oh, she got bonked on the noggin. I love how it's stacking up in tears. Oh, thank you, Scott. So this story is called Bubbles by Max Lobdell. I was getting my hand stitched up in the ER last night when a series of rapid beeps sounded on the intercom, followed by an announcement of ABD, oh geez, Code A, Bay 1. Every doctor and nurse in the area stopped what they were doing and rushed to the main ER entrance. They got there just in time to meet the ambulances. I couldn't see anything, so I waited. I figured there had to have been a serious accident. My phone rang. It was Lucy, my wife. She asked how my hand was. I told her they were still stitching it up. I apologised for getting blood all over her bagel, and she laughed and reminded me that she'd told me not to cut it that way. There was a pause while Lucy answered one of the kids' questions in the background. Then she came back on the line and asked if I saw that really bright light about half an hour ago. I didn't know what she was talking about, so she went on. It was crazy bright. The whole sky was this weird pastel pink colour. Then it turned white. It almost hurt to look at it. It was so bright. Huh, I replied. Maybe it was a UFO. I craned my neck to see over the mass of people still huddled by the ambulance bay. Still, nothing. Lucy laughed. Yeah, must have been aliens. She said something to one of the kids again, then came back on the line. Okay, I'm gonna go. Joey said he's about to throw up. I said goodbye and ended the call. The commotion on the other end of the ER was growing as more people from other parts of the hospital arrived. Something smelled terrible. I covered my nose and mouth with my shirt and stood up. I walked over to the window so I could get a better look at what was happening. The crowd had thinned slightly. I saw a few nurses running off, probably to pick up supplies. At the end of the hall were two gurneys with medical personnel hovering over them. The smell got worse and I gagged inside my shirt. One of the gurneys began to move as someone pushed it down the hall. I stood in the doorway and watched. As the victim came into view, my eyes widened. It was a young woman, covered from head to toe in what I could only describe as bubbles. Some were as small as a pea. Others were the size of a grapefruit. They all throbbed and pulsated from some pressure inside them, and every so often one would tear open and weep yellow fluid onto the gurney. The smell was overwhelming. They pushed her into the room next to mine. I could see everything from the window in the wall. They didn't bother closing the curtains. I heard the other gurney being pushed by and glanced over it. A girl, maybe 12 or 13. I shuddered. I directed my gaze at the person in the adjacent room. The doctors were popping bubbles to insert an IV. Fluid oozed onto the floor, and I used every bit of self-control I could muster to avoid throwing up. The woman's eyes were wide and darting back and forth. It was an expression of terror and agony. As if sensing my stare, a thin stalk slid from the centre of her left eye. The doctors shouted and backed up. The stalk elongated a little over a foot, and its tip grew a bubble of its own. The bubble expanded, and the weight caused the stalk to droop. When it was the size of an orange, it stopped growing. It hung like an obscure fruit. There was a yell from the room where they'd brought the other victim. I assumed it was for the same reason. On the other side of the window, more stalks emerged in a cluster from the woman's other eye. All of them produced bubbles, like a bunch of grapes. My phone beeped. It was a text from Lucy. "Can you go look outside? It's that light again." As if on cue, every light in the hospital went out. The emergency lights clicked on for half a second, then they went dead. There was nothing but the stream of pink light coming in from the open ambulance bay doors. I stepped into the hall and asked, to no one in particular, what was happening. I doubt anyone heard me, because the light shifted from pink to white, accompanied by a blast of noise I can only describe as static. It caused me to clasp my hands to my ears and retreat backwards into the room, where I cowered in the corner. I saw shadows passing in front of the white light, reflecting off the floor. Bizarrely shaped shadows. They moved in a way that was both jerky and fluid, like jelly suspended on bone. The shadows darkened as whatever was making them get closer. Doctors and nurses in the next room shrieked, and then there was a flash that silenced them. Then, 2 feet away in the hall, partially illuminated from the back by the piercing white light, I saw it. My initial thought of jelly suspended on bone wasn't very far off. 6 ossified tubes carried heavy, segmented portions of sloshing, semi-transparent sacks. The first thing that came to my mind was the body of a jellyfish. Bubbles and waving stalks decorated the entirety of its trunk, and it walked by, either not noticing me or not caring about my presence. It reached the room of the other victim. Just like before, there was a scream, flash of light, and then silence. The light outside went dark, the sound stopped, the emergency lights in the hospital clicked on. I scrambled to my feet and looked through the window at the room next to me. The doctors were writhing on the ground with burns on their exposed skin. Burns didn't look life-threatening, but the woman on the gurney was gone. Nothing was left but the sticky yellow fluid on the floor. "What the fuck was that?" I yelled and banged on the window. The person who'd been stitching me up got off the floor, came back into the room, and asked me to sit down so he could finish. A nasty burn on the bridge of his nose wet tears of lymphatic fluid down his mouth and chin. "ABD code," he said. "Abduction. We've trained for them, but it was the first one I ever saw. They're not supposed to come back for the abductees, though. I wonder why they did that." I sputtered and asked, You people have dealt with this. How isn't this going to be on the front page of every paper?" "Well, you'll forget about it in a couple of hours. Everyone will. Better write down what you remember so you can tell your friends. You'll recall something happening, but you won't remember what it is." I looked at him, stupefied. "So how could you train for something like that? And how do you know it was the first one if you can't remember?" He shrugged. "It's just what I was told. And good point about that other thing." He paused, and I saw a series of nearly invisible faded scars around his hairline. He smiled and nodded. "Very good point." That was a very interesting short one. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to have a break a little early in today, an hour in, so I can go deal with the dog, I'm afraid, and go for a quick bathroom break. So please feel free to get yourself some juice, tea, whatever, and snacks. Get yourself in your comfy clothes if you're able to, so you can enjoy some more stories with me. So I shall see you guys shortly. Hey, sorry about that, everybody. Had to go and check why the dude was being a bit temperamental. He's just being a big baby. Because Mom has got people to entertain. He's a very little clingy dude. He is a big baby. That's what he is. Oh, Scott was topping up the cup. Oh. Bless you. Oh, it's a cute little unicorn. I hope you guys are enjoying our little story time today. I'm enjoying having you here. Very much indeed. Oh, indeed, Paolo. He does get quite jealous if I'm in a VC with people in Discord or if I'm streaming. Sometimes he will just come over, try and nudge stuff off my desk, or will just jump on my chair where I'm situated to try and get attention off me, which it can be frustrating, especially if you are playing a game or trying to concentrate. But he's a good dude. I gave him plenty of head pats and playtimes today. He does get spoiled. He's nearly 2. But I think he's a mummy's boy. And I mean, I don't blame him. I'm lovable. But yes, it sounds like a cat in a dog's body. Indeed. Welcome back, Joey. Welcome back. I hope everything's all good. But I am here with more tales. I do hope you're enjoying Fright Friday. It's always Halloween somewhere. Doesn't have to be one day a year. Yes, I enjoy them. Also, if any of you do have any stories you would like me to read, if it's anything you've written, do feel free to send them me and I will read them out one day on stream. I adore reading other people's work, so if ever you guys are writers, feel free to drop me something you've written, whether it's a poem or a story or anything like that. Do let me know and I'll try and do them for you. So on to story number 3. This one is called Marsh Baywood Shirts by Tales of Tim. My mother left me when I was young, leaving me with my overworked father and younger brother Brandon. It's not like I didn't understand why my father had to work all the time, but I didn't like it. So many times I'd get home with my little brother to find a note on the fridge. Working late again, feed your brother and be in bed before 8. We'd recently moved to New Jersey, a street called Havens Cove Road. Our house was the last one before the street took a sharp turn and hit a dead end. The house was surrounded by woods. Well, I call it woods, but in truth, it was the edges of the Marsh Baywood Swamp, an expansive wilderness that my father kept telling me not to play in. It was a Tuesday. I arrived home with Brandon and found another note. Grunting, I tossed it into the trash. I flicked on the television, grabbed a bag of Cheetos, and vaulted onto the couch. And then I noticed it. The back door was wide open. My father's shoes, the only pair he had, were sitting on the back porch. I jumped up and walked to the back door, spilling my Cheetos in the process. Dad, I remember calling him, but whether that was all I said escapes me. Receiving no response was surreal. While my father did work a lot, he never once ignored us while he was home. I shivered, even though the weather was hot and muggy. I walked into the yard and waved to Brandon to follow. A crumpled pair of pants lay nearby, and I knew they were my father's. He had a habit of scuffing the pant legs. Once again, I called for my father, but got no response. I picked up Brandon. When I stepped through the foliage separating the yard from the swamp, I found my father's hat and tie. I walked on for maybe 15 minutes before reaching a part of the swamp where I could go no further. The swampy water had become too deep and the risk of drowning was too high. I would have to turn around and call the police. My father was out there somewhere and my calling was doing nothing. All it did was just scare my younger brother, who was by now sitting on my shoulders. The area of the swamp was peculiar, but I didn't notice it until I looked up to see how late it was getting. About 20 feet above us hung men's dress shirts. Counted 16 white, pressed and clean shirts, nailed to trees deep in the Marsh Baywood swamp. It was one of the most disturbing things I'd seen, and I immediately decided to turn and head back. I tried calling out once more, and this time I got a response. Once again, I can't be sure of the exact words, but I'll try my best. She just wants to decorate her new home. I'll be okay. Go home and make your brother some dinner. I spun to see my father climbing a tree a little distance ahead, in the area I couldn't travel to because of the water. Dad, come on, let's go home. You're scaring me. I watched as the skin of his leg caught on a branch, leaving a long scratch that immediately started to bleed. My father ignored it as he kept climbing. She's going to get mad if you stay. You need to go. Go home. I'm just helping her decorate. He reached into a knot in the side of the tree and pulled out a long metal nail. He leaned against the tree and pressed the tip of the nail to his chest with a smile. That is good. Oh, I'm so glad. It was as though he was talking to someone, but no one was there except us. They're leaving. It's okay. You don't need to. Paused. All right. My younger brother gripped my head and pointed to the water that had begun to bubble. The swamp began to get darker, even though I swore we had another hour of sunlight left. My skin began to crawl as the bubbling became more violent. I told you she'd be mad. You should leave. Go. My father's voice became more frantic and urgent, though it still had an air of calm happiness. It was like he wanted to yell, but couldn't. My younger brother started to cry as we stared at the bubbling water. A lone hand reached up from its depths, a hand attached to an arm long enough to reach branches higher than I was tall. Run! My father's cheery voice again. Another hand burst from the water, followed by another and another, each of them grabbing branches. Whatever was down there was pulling itself out. Run! A low, gurgling scream emitted from the water, growing in volume. I watched, transfixed by the number of hands that were sliding out from beneath the dark waters of the swamp. My younger brother was yanking on my hair. He wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Run! This time, my father's voice was different. It was urgent, it was frantic, and it was a yell. I immediately snapped out of my trance and turned to run. I could hear the thing behind me trying to give chase through the dense trees. I burst into the backyard and slammed the back door behind me. I put Brandon on the couch, grabbed a kitchen knife, and opened the door to the backyard. Nothing was there, aside from my father's shoes, arranged near the door. My father was never found. When I took the police back to where I had found my father, the only thing we found were the shirts. The 16 that were there before, 12 new ones, and my father's hanging by an iron nail. I hope you enjoyed that one. That sounds very creepy. Sip of my tea? I do like my tea. Do feel free to share your thoughts on each of the stories I read. I always love to hear your thoughts on them. So for our next one, this one is called For Love and Hot Chocolate by Kay Banning Kellum. Tragic encounters with moving cars. Thank you, Paolo. It was a dark evening. Aww, would nap to you again, bestie. Aww, did you have a nice nap, sweetheart? It was a dark evening when Blaine Kellerman lost control of his car with his wife in the passenger seat. They had been invited out to a friend's house in the suburbs and thus ventured into the darker wooded areas that surrounded the city of New Orleans. Both Blaine and his wife Christine were lifelong residents of the section of New Orleans known as Mid-City, and, although both of them were in their early 30s, they had little experience driving in the darker, more rural areas that made up the suburban section called the North Shore. It was a Friday night. Neither Blaine nor his wife really desired to drive 45 minutes out of the city just to sit down and hang out with friends that they'd known most of their lives. However, the invitation had been sent, and since it was Friday, no work the next day, the Kellermans agreed to make a short, long drive out to Covington, Louisiana, where their old friends Jessica and Tim had moved. Blaine had grown more than his wife. He worked long hours in a cramped office building downtown. Christine worked farther out from the hub that was the New Orleans Central Business District, so she couldn't exactly share his pain. She worked at a small store with lots of parking and plenty of street space. Blaine worked on Poydras Street in the Harriers Casino legal department. Poydras runs directly through the heart of the CBD, and therefore he had to fight traffic coming and going to work, as well as park in an overpriced garage. It was worth it though. Blaine and Christine had been married for 8 years now, all of them amazing. Sure, there were fights here and there, but at the end of each day, Blaine was always pleased beyond words at where his life had landed him. Good job, great marriage, there was nothing that Blaine could complain about. Until that Friday night. The dinner with friends had been fun. There was a mediocre home-cooked meal, which of course both Blaine and Christine raved about to their hosts. There were drinks served, but both Kellermans refrained from overindulging. A couple of board games were toted out after the eating and drinking were complete. Christine and Jessica clucked on about old times, old friends, and old places. The men went outside on Tim's back porch to smoke cigars and also tell stories about old times and old crimes. Midnight rolled around quickly, and general laughter was replaced by yawns and stretches. It was time to leave. Jessica insisted that they spend the night. Christine was game for it. The couch looked much more comfortable than spending nearly an hour in the car. Blaine, though, wanted to go home. This very want has become a constant source of guilt for the man, but we'll get to that soon enough. Blaine was a stubborn homebody. something that Christine found joy in teasing him about from time to time. He liked to go to sleep and wake up in his own bed. He was never a fan of spending the night with friends. Hotels he was fine with, since it was his own space, but staying with friends or even family was something that Blaine Kellerman simply disliked. "I don't like feeling like a guest," Blaine insisted to his wife on Tim's porch. "Honey, we're both tired. Let's just sleep here tonight and head home in the morning," she replied. "We have plans tomorrow, babe, and you already know what's going to happen if we spend the night. Tim and Jessica are going to want to do stuff, and before you know it, our entire Saturday will be spent in Covington." Christine smiled and caved in. "Okay, but you're driving, and no getting mad if I fall asleep on the ride back," Christine conceded. So, goodbyes were said, hands were shaken, and hugs were issued out. By the end of the whole affair, even Christine was about ready to get back to the comfort and privacy of her own home. She loved her friends, but Blaine was right about privacy and such. She valued it as much as he did. The accident happened about 10 minutes after leaving Tim and Jessica's home. The fatigue really set into Blaine while he and Tim smoked cigars. He didn't want to admit it though. After all, he'd been up since 6 a.m. and had put in a 9-hour workday in the office. However, he knew if he gave in, he'd be spending the night, and he didn't want to sleep on Tim's sofa. By the time he and Christine were pulling out of the street, he was running on mental fumes. Christine looked over and offered to drive. Blaine brushed it off. Perhaps had he let her drive. His next decision point came when they pulled into one of the few 24-hour gas stations in Covington. He went in and bought a Red Bull, even though, based on his daily caffeine intake, he knew the energy drink was more for the flavour than the energy. The main drag that runs through Covington is called HWY US 190. Covington, 1 a.m., usually had almost no traffic. Blaine knew this, so he was paying more attention to digging his can of Red Bull out of the plastic grocery bag than he was to the road. Still, on any other night, this wouldn't have made a difference. The car that hit him was driven not by teenagers breaking curfew, nor a drunk driver. Nothing so easy to blame. It was just another driver out late in a small town. He probably thought the same thing that Blaine did, that there was no one else on the road. The traffic light was out. There was not even the flashing yellow light that sometimes came on. There simply was no light at all. Because of the lack of development in the area, there was no street lights to warn Blaine that a side street was approaching. Something as simple as a stop sign may have changed everything. There was no stop sign though, and thus fate enforced its will. The other driver, a man named Martin Bendels, struck Blaine's car on the passenger side, directing all the force of metal and momentum onto Christine. Blaine's head struck the steering wheel, with the airbag deploying and possibly saving his life. Christine was not so lucky. Her airbag did not deploy. Her head struck the dashboard, then snapped backwards, jerking her back into her seat. Her neck and her head took almost all of the force. Hello there, Inge. I'm doing well, sweetheart. Come stay for a story. The Coma of Christine Kellerman. Blaine woke up in the hospital many hours later. Doctors came in and explained what happened. "Where's my wife? Where's Christine?" Blaine demanded to know. All would be revealed, and the terror was still unfolding. Christine was knocked into a coma. The doctors did all they could, but her brain showed no signs of life. Machines were doing her eating and breathing. Several months passed. Blaine slowly recovered. Physical therapy did its job, and by the time 6 months passed, he was pretty much physically whole again. Martin Bendels, the hapless driver who struck Blaine's car, died in the hospital. Blaine considered his passing to be no great loss. How many subs? Quite a while, Inge. I may need to reset the timer if the days go by. I think I'm about 15, I think, last time I checked. Christine, however, did not wake up. She slept on in her coma. Blaine went to her bed each and every day. He brought in her favourite foods and drinks. They had picnics in her hospital room. Some days he would wake up and just know without a doubt that his wife was going to wake up that day. He would race to the hospital, even bringing her a new change of clothes, as though she was just going to jump out of the hospital bed, ready to change out of her gown and head home. That was Blaine's illusion of the situation anyway, and perhaps the only thing that kept him sane. He had sued the car company for the defective airbag. There was a huge settlement out of court, with the Automotive Corporation agreeing to pay for any and all of Christine's medical bills. Blaine ordered the doctors to keep her alive on the machines, because he was convinced that one day she might just wake up. With the settlement money, Blaine... Oh my god! You scared me, Paolo! Aw, Paolo's gifting some tier subs out to Reaper and to Chan the Magic Man. Thank you, sweetheart! Oh my god, the notification scares me. Every time it's creepypasta time. Thank you, Paolo! I need to give you a shout out, my darling. Everybody go give Paolo some love, because he is a precious baby. Oh my god! What? 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 I'm not... What? What? Nozomi's broke? What? 50! Hooked? Inge! Dude! What the fuck? Oh my god! Thank you! Oh! Fuck! And laugh at my shock! That's the highest gift sum we've had! What? Oh my goodness! Thank you! Oh my goodness! You've knocked Scott to second place! Oh my goodness! Oh! I don't know how... I'm broken! I'm broken! What? Hi, Croak! Give me a moment. Inge has just, shocked me. Thank you so much for the 50 gift subs. Oh my god, my face hurts. Oh, my face hurts. This is full gremlin mode. Oh my god, Inge has gone, is King Gremlin right now. Holy shit. Oh, the Biddy Club has just gone mad. Oh, I hope somebody clipped my freak out then, because that was gold. That was so good. Oh my god, thank you so much. Oh, I love you so much, Inge. You are absolutely sweet. Oh, that was so cute. Oh my god. Oh, you make me cry, bro. Thank you. Oh my god, you guys are so nice. Thank you. Oh my god. Sir, my face hurts from smiling. I went easy on you. Since I still need to have my one place on the leaderboard in Intro's channel. Oh, Intro's gonna be here tomorrow, Inge, sweetie. Intro is one of my guests for my chaotic Pick Your Poison stream tomorrow. But please go and show Inge some love on their Twitch as well. And Scott with his little biddies. I knows how I found you. Aww. I was not expecting that today. Pleasant surprise. It is a pleasant surprise, Paolo. Thank you, Scott, for the 300 biddies. You throw in your biddies? You're the biddy gremlin, Scott. Nobody can take your biddies from you. Oh, well, I'm hoping you like it. So, Hype Train. A Hype Train is close. We have a minute left before it goes. If you want a Hype Train, you've got like less than a minute, but we'll avoid it, I think. I'm safe. I still haven't had my first Hype Train, so, you know. I don't know what to expect with Hype Trains. But yeah, 30 seconds pretty much till the Hype Train, like, would have happened. That's okay. You're finding the book where I am now. I freaked out. Give me a moment. Oh, Paolo. Oh, goodness. Say hi and see how you're doing. I wanted to claim one place. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Paolo, for the gift subs. You paying it forward. That's so sweet. Oh, yeah. Like 25 seconds, less than that, you know? Oh, y'all ain't gonna reach your Hype Train today. I'll be lurking now. Have a great one. Thank you for stopping by. Please enjoy listening to my stories today, Inge. You're absolutely so sweet. Thank you. Whew. I found my place in the book, at least. With the settlement money, Blaine was able to take a substantial amount of time from work. His boss would call him from time to time to ask when he planned on returning. Blaine would usually brush it off. In his heart, he knew he couldn't go back to work until Christine returned to him. Perhaps he could have lived like this for years too. He would spend each and every day with her, talking to her in her coma, massaging her muscles, watching television next to her lifeless shell. He would tell her about his day, and with each passing week, with each advancing month, he had become more and more sure that any time now she would just wake up. The doctors explained to him the full extent of her injuries. They told him that the odds of her waking up were almost nil. Blaine would hear none of it. Even Christine's family eventually let their voices be heard. They wanted the machines turned off. "It's wrong for her to live like that," Maggie, Christine's sister, screamed at Blaine over the phone. "It's wrong to kill my wife too. To just turn off the machines and watch her choke to death, or starve to death, or however the process works," he shouted back. "We have legal recourse, Blaine, and if you won't end her suffering, we will bring the law into it," demanded Christine's mother. "You'll have to kill me before I let that happen. How could you sit there and lobby for them to kill your daughter? She is alive. She is still there. Would you allow her to die if she might wake up the next day?" screamed Blaine. "Blaine, you know how much we love Christine, and you too. But son, have you been listening to the doctors? She isn't going to wake up. Her brain is dead. What's lying in that hospital bed, that isn't our daughter. That isn't your wife. Please, let's do this with dignity. Don't force us to bring the law on a family matter." That particular logic bomb was being delivered by Fred, Christine's father. He was a level-headed family man, but he was a fool if he thought for even a second that Blaine was going to allow them to just kill his wife. He would fight them to the end. This argument raged on for weeks. Blaine was perfectly willing to continue this verbal joust, but things moved a lot faster than he was prepared for. Legal papers were filed, for the first time, when Blaine actually found himself standing in court explaining to a judge why Christine should be allowed to live, he realised that he could lose her. Christine's family made valid points in court. They had medical papers, testimonies from doctors and other medical professionals, all outlining exactly how pointless it would be to keep her alive on the machines. Blaine began to feel small and weak in the debate. They had facts and statistics. He was just sad and broken. He was just a sad and broken man, begging a stranger in a black robe to allow him more time with his wife. For the first time since the accident, he began to feel truly helpless in the situation. They were going to take her away from him. With the power of the law to do it, he would have no means by which to stop them. Legal wheels do turn slowly though. Everyone knows that. Almost a year went by, court was held, opinions were voiced. Pro-life groups rallied for Blaine's cause. However, these were the same nuts that wanted to tell women what to do with their bodies. They were Bible thumpers at best, a faction of society that Blaine would have never associated with before. Now they were his only hope. Toward the end, the final days in court, Blaine already knew which way the judge was going to sway. He knew enough about court procedures to know he was going to lose. He couldn't watch her die. He couldn't be a part of it. I love you so much, Christine. You're my life, my everything. I want to kill you. There's nothing I can do to stop it. In a week, the judge is expected to rule. And even I know they've made a better case. I am so sorry, my love. I am so sorry, Christine. Blaine wept long into the night. He finally went home around 11 p.m. Things weren't better there. He broke down into tears that simply wouldn't stop flowing. Everything in their home reminded him of their lives together. Photos on the wall, their wedding, their anniversaries, how happy they were together. Emmy, their pet cat, would jump onto his lap. Thank you, Bradshaw, sweetheart, for the follow. Oh, my name's Nozomi, and I'm the Welsh Pandragon here at Raven's Hollow. I really appreciate you. Please stay and enjoy some stories. He was an old cat now, but he still remembered the day they went down to the animal shelter together and brought her home. I will love you forever and ever, he mumbled to himself. It was what he said to her the day they were married. But will you love me forever, forever, and forever? She responded later that night when they were alone in their hotel room. Take all the stars in the sky, multiply them by forever, and add in a few more forevers. You still wouldn't be close. They had laughed and made love forever and ever. Blaine was starting to realise just how short that theoretical time frame could be. Hello, Bradshaw. How are you, darling? You okay? Talking to Astrid. It was the thought of the stars that next inspired Blaine. During the course of his marriage to Christine, the stars had played a big part, at least in law, to their success. The night that Blaine decided he wanted to ask her on their first date, he had been standing in the front yard. It was twilight, and the very first star had appeared that night. On a whim, he had invoked that old child nursery rhyme about wishing on the stars. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight. He had recited this little astral ritual, followed by wishing Christine would agree to go on a date with him. That night he called her, and she said yes. Blaine had made the same wish again on the night he intended to propose, and on the same night his wish was once again granted. Now, Blaine was a smart man and didn't believe in much superstition, but still, The double success of this little tradition did strike him almost as fate at work. Years later, he told Christine about his little twilight wishes. She laughed about it, but they kept the tradition going. Before they bought their first home, they did a star wish. They got their home at an unbelievably low interest rate. Almost, some would say, a miracle. Christine, who was the art major of the marriage, began calling the tradition talking to Astrid. Whenever the couple needed a really long shot of luck, they would wait until dusk, sometimes even checking online to see what time the very first stars would start to appear that night. And they would go out into their front yard and sit on the grass and wait. When the first star became visible, they would make their wish, and as luck would have it, each and every time they talked to Astrid, their desire would be met. "We should wish for $1 million, Blaine had mentioned one night. "It won't come true that way," Christine corrected. "So far, our wishes have been for unselfish desires, things that we need rather than millions of dollars. Plus, I feel like if we made a wish like that, it wouldn't come true, and that might break our streak of luck with Astrid." Christine made a great point, and she and Blaine had never abused their crazy stargazing methods. In Blaine's mind, he always just assumed these things would have happened either way, and the star wishing was really just more of a morale booster than any effectual process. He was pretty sure that Christine believed the same. Still, though, it was something that was fun, and something that was theirs. Tonight, as Blaine paced his small home, a home that felt somehow even smaller without his wife there to share the space, he decided to try once more. In his heart, he knew it was just a stupid child's fantasy, that something would actually come from wishing on a star. However, he had tried all of the adult methods of saving his wife, from medical to legal, and now it seemed as though nothing would work. Blaine stepped onto his front yard at dusk. Being in the middle of the city always meant that there weren't a ton of stars to be seen, especially early in the evening. One usually had to wait until later, once all traces of the sun were gone, to really see the diamonds light up the sky. He sat on his porch, smoked a cigarette, a habit that started just recently, and waited until the sky was mostly darkened. A sky at twilight in the city always had a neon glow, something that used to bring him comfort. Tonight, the lights from the street lamps and the nearby downtown high-rises just seemed to weigh down on his mind. He scanned the sky for the first star and quickly found Venus, in her usual spot near the moon. Venus was a planet though, and tonight he wanted to talk to Astrid, not just some non-twinkling rock in the sky. He looked over and saw Mars, apparent by its reddish glimmer. It never occurred to him that he was picking out a lot of heavenly bodies for this time of night in New Orleans. The sky seemed to be opening up for him as never before. Then he saw it, a real star, apparent by its shimmer. He almost thought he was looking at Mars again, because there was an unmistakable red hue. He looked back and saw the non-glimmering Mars right where it should be. So what was he looking at? He was no astronomer, so seeing this tiny, slightly rust-coloured star shining in the evening sky didn't exactly throw him into overdrive. It was a star, a rather unique one at that. He decided that as far as wishing goes, this one was as good as any other. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight. He recited as always. Tears were falling down his face now. Bring back Christine, please. Star, God, whoever. Please. I can't live without her. I am broken without her in my life. She is everything to me. I will do anything. Just please. Blaine stood there a moment longer, allowing himself to weep. Thankfully, none of his neighbours were out. He didn't care if they saw him cry, but he didn't feel like answering the always lovely, "Are you all right?" question. This was his and Christine's connection. He had talked to Astrid. He returned to his home, slamming the door behind him. Wishing on stars. Yeah, I am on top of the world, he mumbled to himself before collapsing on his couch. Mr. Pinkerton. That night, he was awoken by a knock at his door. It was a gentle and restrained knock, as though the person knew he would be right there on his couch, instead of upstairs in their bed, where he most certainly would have slept through it. Blaine rolled off the couch and looked at the clock on his cable box. 11:04. Who the hell would be knocking this late? The knock returned in the same restrained manner. However, there was a strange persistence in it. Something that said the person wasn't going anywhere. They could wait. Yes, Jack, sweetie, 50. That was my reaction. But welcome to the chat, sweetheart. I hope you enjoy your gift sub. But off Inge. welcome to my stream. I hope you're enjoying Fright Friday. Blaine grabbed the baseball bat they kept, but just this sort of thing, and peered through the peephole. On the other side was a small man, probably about 5'6" at the most. Blaine could only make out part of his face, as he was wearing one of those old flat-brimmed hats, the kind that old southern politicians were always seen wearing back in the 1950s. The round brim cast a shadow over his eyes and nose. The hat was blue and white striped. "Who is it?" Blaine replied in a gruff voice.
Mr. Kellerman, oh Mr. Kellerman. My name is Mr. Pinkerton, but my friends call me Mr. Pinky. I would just love it if you called me that too. I'm here to speak with you on a very personal business matter. I do believe you reached out to me and my associates this very evening." Whoever this Mr. Pinkerton man was, he was almost a walking cliché. He had a southern accent that was practically a caricature, there we go, of the southern dandy. He pronounced Blaine's last name Kellerman, and really threw out a lot of his words for emphasis. "Business do you have, Mr. Pinkerton?" Blaine inquired through the locked door. He still sounded gruff, but Pinkerton seemed to pay no mind. "Mr. Kellerman, if you could be ever so gracious as to open your door, we could discuss the matter at much greater detail, and in a far more human comfort, I would imagine. You show up at my door this hour and expect me to invite you in for coffee. Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying. Piss off, Pinky." Blaine observed a small smile whisk across Pinkerton's face. However, he did not move from his position on the porch. "Mr. Kellerman, know two things. If you turn me away now, I will never return. You will never see me or hear from me again. But also know this, your precious Christine will die." Suddenly, heat rushed through Blaine's face, rage so sudden and so raw he almost felt faint. He flung the door open. The sight of Mr. Pinkerton just about deflated his anger. The man was indeed short. He had a pot belly and was wearing a blue and white suit that matched his ridiculous hat. He had a bow tie around his neck, tied loose. His skin did have a pinkish hue, as though to match his name. Blaine realised it was no doubt sunburn. Pinkerton looked like a very delicate man, a true dandy if ever there was one. Blaine wouldn't have been surprised if the moonlight on this very night had given Pinkerton his burn. His eyes, however, told a different story. His eyes looked sharp and cunning, a dark blue, piercing stare. His eyes made him look a little dangerous in the dim glow of the porch light. "What did you say about Christine?" Blaine demanded. "Well now, Mr. Kellerman, does this mean I may enter your humble domicile?" "This is a con. I will fuck your world up," snarled Blaine Kellerman. "Sir, if this is a con, I will gladly offer you my body to enact your very primal desire for revenge. However, once you hear what I have come to say, I do believe harming me will be your last impulse." Blaine backed up and allowed Pinkerton to enter his home. He removed his hat, revealing a perfectly bald head. "May I sit?" he asked. Blaine gestured to his couch. Pinkerton sat and placed his hat neatly in his lap. "I would love that coffee you mentioned before, Mr. Kellerman, if you would be ever so kind. And if I may venture to be so bold as to make a suggestion to the man of the house, I would implore you to make yourself a cup as well. You're going to want to be awake for this." Blaine was in sort of a waking shock at this little man, who had invited himself in, ordered himself a cup of coffee, and even suggested one for Blaine. Pinkerton had a certain energy about him that Blaine was hard-pressed to identify. Blaine returned a few minutes later with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Pinkerton requested his black, same as Blaine. "Okay, Pinky, you got in? You got your coffee? Now tell your story. What do you know about Christine? How could you possibly help me?" The small man sipped his brew and smiled. He licked his lips and began speaking. Blaine was entranced from start to finish. "Mr. Kellerman, tonight at about 7:45 p.m., as you know time, you ventured right out there into your front yard and called out to the very stars for help, did you not?" Blaine nodded. "Over the years, this was a bit of a tradition of you and your wife. Let me tell you, there was no magic in those wishes. You simply had good luck. However, your belief, your honoring of such old and glorious traditions certainly did catch the attention of my superior. It is indeed a thrill to see a young man such as you, in this here modern world, still holding true to ways and days that have long passed by." "What you mean?" Blaine asked. "Picture this, Mr. Kellerman. And really, I do mean picture what I say in your mind. Eons and eons ago, there was a kingdom among the stars. A floating castle, as you would no doubt imagine it. In that castle sat a very powerful king. His name, well, he has many. King Tobit is the best for your tongue, I do believe. A few of his other names are a bit, let's say, twisty. Anyway, Tobit sat in his castle in the stars, granting his favor to those who called out to him. For centuries, he would bestow his kindness onto mortal creatures, small critters like yourself, scampering through your ever so short time in this level of existence. For some time, this pleased Tobit to no end. People would speak his name, glorify his image. He of the goat's head and man's body. Then, things changed. People demanded his favor, blamed him for their problems, and unlike other powerful beings that your kind know, Tobit did not forgive so easily. He shifted his favor to those who deserved it. those who were willing to earn it, those that would risk it all. He even came to Earth and built a city, just for his most loyal. Oh, and what a paradise it is! But the cost to reside there, well, that doesn't concern you. I am not here to invite you to his glorious city in the frozen lands. That's a different ritual altogether. What I am here to offer you, Mr. Kellerman, is your wish, the very desire that you cried out for tonight in your yard, when you gazed upon King Tobit's star. The star revealed itself to you, Mr. Kellerman, because King Tobit believes in you. Oh, yes, he does. He believes that you may be worthy of his favor. However, sir, you will have to prove it. Blaine spoke up for the first time in what seemed forever. You mean, you're telling me, Pinky, that this Tobit character can bring Christine back from her coma? Pinkerton smiled and snapped his fingers as if for emphasis. Just like that, Mr. Kellerman. At King Tobit's whim, your lovely bride will simply awaken as though she has just been in a long slumber. There will be no brain damage, no physical problems. As far as she will know, it will be just as if she simply fell asleep after one too many mint juleps. And won't that just amaze her family, who seem to be in such a rush to see her demise? This has to be a trick. You can't be serious, Blaine insisted. Answer me this, Mr. Kellerman. Are you prepared to gamble on that? Let's say I am just some crazy man, some individual that has been following you and your problems. Just some lunatic out for a good time. You could thrash my tender hide at this very moment, or you could call your local police to come on over and haul me away. But you haven't. No, you sat here and listened to me talk about god kings and floating castles, magic wishes, and bringing your wife back. Tell me, do you doubt me, or just doubt yourself? Prove it then. You really are magical. Prove it, Blaine shouted. Now, Mr. Kellerman. Faith is of the utmost importance in such matters. If I went around doing parlor tricks for everyone who beckoned upon my master, well, this whole operation would turn into a traveling carnival. And me? I guess that would make me a clown, Mr. Kellerman. Like wishing on those stars, you must go into this with faith. The proof will be given to you in the form of your beautiful Christine, waking up and calling out for her husband. What do I have to do then? Blaine asked cautiously. For now, simply sleep. You'll need your strength come tomorrow. I will see you at my place of business, where all rules will be explained, all contracts will be agreed upon. Should you succeed, you'll have your wife back with you again, happy and healthy. Wait now, if I succeed, does this mean it isn't guaranteed? Mr. Kellerman, nothing in this sad, fragile world of ours is ever guaranteed now, is it? However, what I can promise you is that there are rules that will be followed, and any and all participation will be fair and impartial. I am not here to see you succeed or fail. I'm simply here to make the offer and ensure that all aspects of the agreement are held at the conclusion of our arrangement. So, if I succeed, Christine wakes up. What happens if I fail? Well now, Mr. Kellerman, at the risk of sounding cliché, if you fail, King Hyrac Tobit, get your soul for all eternity. Okay, enough for this shit. Get out of my house, you fucking nuts, Blaine said, raising his voice with each word. Very well, Mr. Kellerman. You did invite me in, and you did serve me some very delicious coffee. So, for you, I will make a small exception. Pinkerton pulled out a card from his suit pocket. Be at this address tomorrow. Come by yourself. I will wait for you until nightfall, and at that time, I will pack up my lovely little operation and move on to the next town. There are always people in need of favors. As I said at your door, you will never see me again. And yes, your wife will most certainly die. If you want me to perform a miracle, allow me to predict the future for you real quick. Your wife's mother and father are going to win. The judge has already decided that fact. They're going to allow the plugs to be pulled, and your sweet wife will fade out. But not before suffering greatly. Pulling that plug doesn't bring instant death, but rather a very slow and deliberate suffering. And since her mind isn't capable of conceiving time in her current state, her suffering will seem like an eternity, as she chokes and gasps, reaching for a rescue that will never come. Just get out of here, Blaine screamed. Pinkerton showed himself to the door and stepped out to the porch. He turned and made one last comment before leaving. Be the hand that rescues Christine. She's reaching out for you even now, Mr. Kellerman. Should you meet her one day on the other side, do you want to tell her that you allowed her to die a horrible death, rather than spending one day with me to wake her back up? Come to the address tomorrow before sundown, or live in your misery forever. With that, Pinkerton quickly stepped down the porch to the sidewalk. Blaine, consumed with rage and emotion, grabbed his baseball bat, intending to take his aggression out on the small chubby man. He charged into the street to find Pinkerton gone. Hello, Moth. How are you, sweetie? Blaine's nightmare. Blaine didn't sleep the rest of that night. He sat up and twirled the card in his fingers, looking down at the address. It was a spot way out in the country, in a small town called Madisonville, Louisiana. Oddly enough, Madisonville was not that far from Covington, where all of this began. Blaine was almost sure that this Pinkerton arsehole was just as full of shit as any one man could be. All of the information he presented Blaine was readily available if someone really wanted to dig a little. The newspaper ran an article on the accident last year. The hospital records were sealed, of course, but Blaine knew all too well that Christine's sister kept a pretty updated blog. He'd read it himself a few times. It details all the secrets of their lives, comic and tragic alike. Blaine was thinking out loud. Let's say that Pinkerton is a con artist, and all this is just a scam. What does he have to gain? Blaine was directing this set of questions to Emmy the cat. Emmy gazed at him with her sleepy eyes as if to say, Humans, so many stupid questions. Maybe he wants to get me out in the middle of nowhere and kill me. Did you think about that? Emmy stared back silently. Blaine answered his own question. Well, if he wanted to kill me, he could have just done it right here. Why would he leave me the address on a card, knowing that I could just call the cops, or have someone wait around for me to make sure if I was alright? The cat looked back. He seemed to be bored with the situation. Blaine waged this internal debate until almost sunrise, when fatigue finally caught up to him. At that point, he fell asleep and dreamed. He was at home, but it was different. The house was lit up, bright with life. Emmy was purring, music was playing from the television, and the smell of hot chocolate filled the room. Of course it did, though. Christine loved hot chocolate. She didn't drink coffee, no. She drank hot chocolate almost all the time. Even in the summer. Blaine walked into the kitchen and saw the cup of hot chocolate, but no sign of Christine. "Darling, will you bring me my drink?" came Christine's voice. Of course she was upstairs in bed. It was early. She must have come down, made a cup, and then gone back up to snooze until he came home. Blaine grabbed the cup of warm fluid and began to take it upstairs. "Here, baby. It's nice and hot." The sight before him stole his words. Christine was in their bed, but she wasn't the Christine he knew. She was wasted, dying. Her face was too thin, her arms were nothing more than sticks. There were machines hooked up to every part of her body. A large black pump was jutting out of her chest. It sucked in air, and Blaine could hear the thump, her heart, before the pump would deflate again. Each time it did, blood would splash out onto the bed. A device that looked like a car radiator was dug into her stomach, belching out black smoke. Tubes ran from her eyes, ears, nose, everywhere. "Blaine, it hurts so bad. Please, I can feel this. All of it." "Christine, what have they done to you?" cried Blaine. "This is what I feel. Every second, the machines. God, Blaine, please make it stop." Suddenly, Christine's family rushed in. Her mother and father, their faces set and stern, like an executioner before he throws the switch of an electric chair, or a hangman before he drops the platform. They began to rip the devices from Christine's body, and as they did, the life in her eyes slowly vanished. Her family backed away and began to weep softly. Christine was gagging, choking on air. Her stomach began to sink in, becoming further emaciated. She looked at Blaine, mouthing pleas, begging him to stop the suffering. "This will go on for weeks, Mr. Kellerman." A voice. Pinkerton, standing directly behind Blaine. "I have to stop this. She's suffering, please," Blaine begged. "If you leave her on the machine, she suffers. Take her off the machines, she suffers. Salvation, Mr. Kellerman. Salvation is yours to claim. There's no freedom from King Tobit. There's only freedom through King Tobit. Vie for his favor, show your worth. If you truly love her, if you are capable of expressing that love, well, just imagine." Pinkerton snapped his fingers and Christine was standing in the room, healthy, whole. "Blaine, I feel so amazing, so much better. Thank you for bringing me my hot chocolate. You always know how to help wake me up." The room vanished again and Blaine was standing in the dark. Pinkerton was near him, whispering in his ear. "Bring your wife her hot chocolate, Mr. Kellerman. Help her wake up." The room suddenly lit up. Blaine saw an image before him. A being standing at least 40 feet tall, a massive masculine frame with the head of a goat. Behind his being burned a red star. Its light and heat bore down on Blaine. Hierarch Tobit. A sip of my drink. The Grove of Madisonville. Blaine snapped awake. It was late morning, at least according to the amount of light coming in through the window. The card was still in his hand. Without any thought, Blaine cleaned up, got dressed, and started driving. The trip to Madisonville was normally a long and boring ride. Blaine left the city by way of Lake Pontchartrain, over the Causeway Bridge. He touched down in Mandeville, a small town on the edge of the lake. Up ahead was a small green interstate sign announcing the exit for Madisonville. A few miles in, he found the turnoff for Bannister Road. It was just a mud strip leading down into some thick woods. The mud right now was as hard as iron, but Blaine had an idea that when the rainy season came through, Bannister Road would be converted into a clay pit that not even a Range Rover could muscle through. Now the real question came. He was on Bannister Road, but as far as he could tell, there was nothing at all here. He drove down for a mile until it dead-ended into a thick grove of trees. Blaine couldn't help but think this scene would be beautiful, not for the circumstances that brought him here. He stopped his car at the dead end and climbed out. He lit a cigarette and leaned against his trunk. He gazed around in all directions at first. It seemed that he was simply sitting in a deserted grove. Then he saw it. About 20 feet into the woods, on his right, barely visible through the leaves and bushes, he could make out a roof. There was a building back there. It was bright red, which is what caught his attention. He peered harder through the trees and could gradually make out more features. It looked almost like a small circus tent, perhaps a leftover remnant from a long past carnival. Then, something Pinkerton said to Blaine occurred to him. He had made a comment about the carnival and being a clown, something like that. Was that a hint? Was this the place? Blaine pushed through the woods and came out into the clearing. The tent was old and ragged. Its once bright red and yellow design was long gone. What stood before him was a destroyed artifact, a reminder that once there was fun and laughter here. Now this place was simply dead. Then Blaine noticed a single pink balloon tied to a nearby tree. The balloon was still inflated. It was put here recently. Blaine knew he had the right place. Drawing on his courage, which was small, and his love for Christine, which was large and noble, he gathered his nerve and stepped into the tent. Oh yes, Zach, yes indeed. Inge gave out whole 50 subs. It was very shocking. The trials. Mr. Kellerman, shouted Pinkerton full of glee, as Blaine entered the tent. The inside of the tent had a wrong feel to it that Blaine would be hard-pressed to describe. It was totally hollow inside. If this place ever did house happy, cheering people, those days were long gone. Now there was only Pinkerton, standing in the centre, wearing his blue and white striped suit. He was vigorously wiping at his forehead with his handkerchief. By the saints above, today is a hot one, is it not, Mr. Kellerman? I do say such climate is not suitable for a fine gentleman like ourselves. I came, Pinkerton. Now tell me how to get my wife back, Blaine commanded. A man who gets right to the point. You are a dying breed, Mr. Kellerman, indeed you are. Why, if more gentlemen thought like you, perhaps your breed would have landed on the moon 1,000 years ago, as was the plan. Oh, the treats that King Tobit hid for you there. Such a shame you all missed it. No more games, no more riddles. You told me that you could save Christine. That is why I'm here. Please. Well, your manners are commendable. Yes, you are here to save your wife, and I am capable of facilitating that very desire. However, before we begin, I must cover the rules. Do be a good ambassador to our beloved Dixie, and sit quietly as I explain. Blaine obliged and sat on the ground. His exterior almost appeared patient, but inside he was burning. Now, as I said before, King Tobit has become, well, disenfranchised with mortals and their constant wants. Still, though, in all of his glory, he desires to shed his favor upon you. However, now it comes down to a test, a wager really. You will complete a few tests of will, let's say. Like Hercules, you must demonstrate that your strength, your will, is both pure and stoic. Once you demonstrate these qualities to King Tobit, he shall bestow upon you your heart's desire. What are these tests? Blaine asked. Well, Mr. Kellerman, they vary. Once the trials begin, you will be at the whims of King Tobit himself. I will be here to sort of nod you in the right direction. But in the end, this is your test, your rules, and your duty to complete them. Now, as I stated back at your home, the name of the game here is fairness. Our mighty Lord is nothing if not utterly lawful. Even when he imposes his will on his servants, things that you might consider ghastly, it is never out of trickery. Everyone is given a fair chance, especially in the court of wish fulfillment. The rules, as they are very simple. No cheating. Follow the instructions as they are presented. In order to claim any prize, your wish, in other words, there must be a wager. Remember, Mr. Kellerman, your word will be a direct reflection of how King Tobit perceives your actions. Whatever you say, you must be prepared to follow through. Be very careful when choosing your words. Pinkerton stopped speaking long enough to gesture in the direction of another tent flap when a ragged, rough-looking man stepped through. This is Mr. Petey. He is under my employ and is here to provide a balance to your actions during the trials. Petey looked like a mix between a pirate and a biker. He was dirty with a scruffy beard, black bandana on his head, and a denim vest. He was wearing ragged pants that tore off toward the shins. He stood sort of hunched over, which really hammered home the pirate look. His arms were no joke though. Petey looked like he lived in the gym, even though the idea of a man like this working out among preppy gym members seemed almost laughable.
Is this the bastard pansy? Couldn't take care of his wife?
Petey grunted. His accent sounded like someone trying to do a London accent for a cheap stage play. Blaine tensed and prepared to reply, but Pinkerton beat him to it. Mr. Petey, we will have none of that. Your poor breeding and subpar upbringing is no excuse to speak to Mr. Kellerman in such a manner. He is our guest, and I have personally sought him out. You will behave in my presence.
Sorry there, boss. No, I got a stupid head sometimes. Just goes off on its own. Won't happen again, I say.
Seeing this hulk of a man backing down to someone like Pinkerton actually unnerved Blaine more than it comforted him. It produced more questions, like who was Pinkerton really? And how did he keep such a brute in line? Now, Mr. Kellerman, Petey will be in and out of some of your trials. He is simply here to ensure that everything is legal. King Tobit wants you to succeed, but he wants you to earn it. Petey spit on the ground in Blaine's direction and crossed his arms. He was clearly ready to do whatever his task was in all of this. Blaine didn't like it.
What do I have to do? Blaine asked.
Ah, yes. We should begin soon. Even as we speak, your wife's family is making legal moves to try to lock you out of the decision-making. So, do you understand the rules, Mr. Kellerman?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Very well. What are you willing to do to save your wife?
Anything.
Petey smiled at that. Mr. Kellerman, I fear you weren't paying attention. I warned you about the rules. Had you just answered that question with something like, let's say, eat an ice cream cone, then that perhaps would have been your only test. But, like so many before you, you said anything. King Tobit holds us to our words after all.
You mean the trial's already begun?
Mr. Kellerman, the trials began when I visited your home. Now you're playing for keeps. Your contract was struck when you answered my question. Your soul is now on the betting table. Hi, Izzy, sweetie. Hope you're well. We're invested in a very nice story right now. Also, Scott bought the Levi figure, Izzy. I've got to get back to being Mr. Pinkerton. Ante up, Mr. Kellerman. Blaine felt a panic seeping in. Yet, somehow, this still felt made up. This Pinkerton freak talked a good game. But so far, all he's really shown is his ability to hide out in a tent with some freak named Petey. Blaine felt his confidence harden a bit.
Okay, fine. What's the next trial?
Mr. Kellerman, I sense that you are still not playing your best game here. Now, King Tobit would not be happy if you were simply... What's the term, Petey?
Half-arsing it, sir.
Yes, that. You are wagering your very soul here. So in the spirit of fairness, allow me to relieve you of all doubt, since it is far too late for you to back out now anyway. Pinkerton produced from what appeared to be thin air a curtain hanging on a rod. He released the rod, and the whole apparatus simply hovered in the air. Neat trick, is it not? Now, observe. Pinkerton slid the curtain to the side, revealing a tiny altar behind it. On the altar was a small stone statue, goat-headed man. Blaine recognized it from his nightmare the previous night. It was Hierarch Tobit. Now, Mr. Kellerman, allow me to show you where your soul will be delivered, should you fail to gain King Tobit's favor. Pinkerton waved his arms, and suddenly the walls of the tent collapsed. Blaine gazed around in utter horror. As far as his mind could comprehend, he was in the pits of hell. Fire burned everywhere. Even the sky itself seemed to blaze with flame. People lay here and there, wallowing on the ground, moaning, crying out. Blaine strained his eyes to the horizon. The orange flame and the pitch-black sky were all he could see. Convinced yet, Mr. Kellerman? The voice of Pinkerton filled the sky. Blaine strained to look directly above, and the entire sky was the face of Pinkerton. Only now he looked less like a little portly southern dandy, and a lot more like a demon from the darkest corners of the abyss. "You're not in hell, Mr. Kellerman. No, that is a different playground for a different religion. You are on the Red Star, the wastelands where those that fail Hyrak Tobit find themselves for all of eternity. However, it does relate to your backward concepts of damnation, in the fact that this is eternal. There is no hope and there is no escape." Blaine dropped to his knees. "Please, get me out of here! God help me!" He screamed into the darkness and fire all around him. "King Tobit is your god now, and I would suggest you avoid such blasphemy in the future. Now, have you seen enough, Mr. Kellerman? Or do you need further proof that this is not a con?" "Please, I believe you. For the love of... Blaine caught himself before he said God. "Very well, Mr. Kellerman." In a flash of light, Blaine was back in the tent. Pinkerton and Petey were in their original positions. "The fuck was that?" Blaine gasped. "That'll be your home." "That'll be your home if you fuck this up," grunted Petey. "Yes, Mr. Kellerman." Mr. Petey's words are far from gentle, and are barely grammatical, but he is correct. Should you fail to appease King Tobit, you can expect to spend all of eternity there, on the Red Star. And imagine this. You were just there to witness it. You didn't feel the pain, the fire, or the thirst. You didn't feel the loneliness and desperation for freedom. Please keep all that in mind as you complete your trials, for if you lose, you'll be shown no mercy. The contest began. "Mr. Kellerman, we will begin this easily enough. Tell me, where did you and Christine spend your first date?" Blaine gathered his wits as quickly as he could. He was now terrified, but he was determined to let his love for his wife guide his mind. Okay, that's easy. Algiers Point. I took her across the river and we sat on the bank of the Mississippi and had a picnic." "Sorry, Mr. Kellerman, that is wrong," replied Pinkerton with a frown. "No, I know where I took Christine on our first date. I planned the whole thing out myself," Blaine demanded. "You're playing this selfish, sir. Your first date in her eyes was a simple hamburger at a little shack called Bud's Broiler. As I recall, you took her there after work one day." "You're just friends then? It wasn't a date?" "To her it was. How can such a doting husband have missed the look in her eyes at that simple little meal? She was already falling for you. Sad, really. And that was the easy warm-up test." Blaine once again tried to center himself. Clearly this game was rigged. At least to an extent. Trick question right from the start. He would have to do better if he was going to save Christine and himself. "Let's try this again, shall we?" invited Pinkerton. Blaine nodded. He would be ready this time. Pinkerton waved his arms, and 3 items appeared before Blaine. A silver locket, a wedding ring, a small personal mirror. "Mr. Kellerman, which of these items is the most relevant to Christine as a symbol of love? Choose wisely." Blaine did think long and hard on this. The locket, that was an anniversary gift. He'd spent a fortune on it. and Christine had scolded him, lovingly, for using most of his annual bonus on a gift. The mirror, he remembered it also. He and Christine had gone camping in Alabama one year, and he bought her that mirror for the trip. He made some joke about how she could still spend an hour on her makeup even at the campsite. She had laughed about it, but did in fact end up using it for most of the trip. And the wedding ring, symbol of their love. He had placed it on her delicate finger the day he swore to love her forever and ever. He knew it was the ring. His confidence was solid. The wedding ring, of course, the symbol of my eternal love for her. Pinkerton frowned again. Oh, Mr. Kellerman, what a shame! The correct answer was the mirror. Had you taken the time to pick it up, you would have seen your own reflection. You are indeed a stronger symbol of love to her than any jewelry could ever be. Or do you think of her in such a shallow light? Blaine felt the air leave his body. He was down 2 strikes already on such easy questions. Let us move on, Mr. Kellerman. For the longer we linger on your failures, the more difficult it will be to return to the track of success. Pinkerton waved his arms again, and a mug of dark liquid appeared before him. Hot chocolate, Christine's favourite, am I correct, sir? Asked Pinkerton. Yes, she loves it. I would bring her a mug almost every morning, responded Blaine. Of course, sir. And now you simply must bring the mug to me. Allow King Tobit to witness your affection. Simply grasp the mug and bring it to me. Blaine nodded. At least this one wasn't a trick question or anything. Simple task. Blaine grasped the mug and began to walk it towards Pinkerton. That's it, Mr. Kellerman, that's it. Right to me. Blaine actually allowed himself to relax a bit and immediately paid for it. A sharp pain suddenly inflicted itself into Blaine's side, followed by another hard thud in the centre of his back. He fell to the ground, spilling the hot chocolate into the mud. What the fuck? Blaine had time to choke out, before Petey delivered another hard kick to his ribs. The deceased-looking fucker was smiling through his yellowed and rotting teeth. Mr. Kellerman, I warned you before all of this began that Petey was here to challenge you. I know for a fact that each morning you would ever so carefully bring Christine her drink, stepping wisely to ensure you didn't spill a drop. Did you mean to tell me that you were more concerned about tripping over your rug at home than you were about a thug like our Mr. Petey here? What a sad state you're in, sir. Another failure, and on such a simple task. Bastard! He sucker punched me. How the fuck is that fair? Blaine grunted, trying to catch his wind. It's fair because I warned you about it well in advance. Is it my fault that you are such a simple man that you had to apply all of your cognition on carrying a mug? Mr. Petey didn't vanish and appear behind you. He walked to your blind spot, right out in the open. You were the one who failed to see such an obvious ploy. Do not shift blame here, Mr. Kellerman, or I will happily declare this contest over. Is that what you want? Are you finished, sir? 2 simple questions and a task that a blind child could perform? Is that all it takes to defeat your will? Is that all the love you can muster for your wife? No, I am not done. I will never stop fighting for Christine, Blaine shouted back. Then prove it, Pinkerton answered sharply. The world flashed again and Blaine was in a moving car behind the wheel. He didn't know where he was, but the road was dark and tall pines lined his sides. "Where am I?" he shouted. Pinkerton's voice answered from nowhere and everywhere. "You're in the car that was once owned by a pathetic little sod named Martin Bendels. Remember him? The man whose car struck yours. The man who caused your wife to fall into her coma. You are in Mr. Bendel's position now, since I know that you feel it was all his fault, that he caused all of your problems. Let us see if you can do any better." Blaine suddenly recognized the environment. It was Covington, that dark side road where Bendels had emerged up ahead. Blaine could see the intersection. He didn't want to believe what he was witnessing. He slammed his foot on the brakes, but the car continued to move forward. He honked his horn and flashed his lights, trying his damn best to warn his past self of the approach. The intersection came into clear view. Ahead, he could see his Jeep Patriot, or at least his former Jeep Patriot before the accident. He slammed his foot on the brake over and over again, honked the horn, but nothing changed. In that horrifying moment, he saw Christine's face, awake and aware for the first time in over a year. It was not the wonderful moment he had imagined, though. He saw the fear as she turned to look. He saw the fear turn into utter horror. He saw her mouth open to scream, her eyes widen, her arms fly up to shield her face. Then the impact. He saw her beautiful face smash into the dashboard as the airbag failed to deploy. He saw her head snap back against the seat from the impact. It all happened in slow motion for him. He was back in the tent again, on his knees, weeping. "Mr. Kellerman, what happened? I gave you the chance to change it all, to prevent the accident. You wasted it." No. I tried to stop. I hit the brake. The fucking car kept going. Blaine was almost begging. "Sir, you could have turned your car off of the road. Your steering wheel worked just fine. Sure, you would have been injured, maybe killed, but Christine would have been spared. How sad is it that you were still selfish, even in the moment that could have changed all of this?" No, it was a trick. Bendel's brakes didn't fail. I remember that from the accident report. Just wasn't paying attention. You rigged it. Rigged it? Is that what you dare say, Mr. Kellerman? Nothing here is rigged. You said that you would do anything to save Christine. Am I to believe that running a car into a tree falls outside the realm of anything? Blaine gasped, but no words could come out of his mouth. "Mr. Petey, I am beginning to think that our dear friend Mr. Kellerman doesn't want to save his wife. Have we not played fair with him? Have we not presented the rules to him in the most transparent means possible?"
"Well, boss, I knew this little runt was a failure when he walked in. Little softy is all he is, ain't he, boss? I bet that little wife of his went into that coma just to get away from him," lied Petey. "You shut the fuck up!" screamed Blaine, as he rushed Petey with all his rage. Petey sidestepped and delivered a hard knee into Blaine's abdomen, followed by a fist driven into the back of his head. Blaine collapsed. Now, sir, none of that. If you cannot be even abide Mr. Petey's foul and uncultured sense of humor,
How can you possibly hope to gain the favour of King Tobit? Scolded Pinkerton. Blaine gasped and finally found air in his lungs. On legs that felt far too weak, he brought himself to his feet. Mr. Kellerman, when I met with you at your home last night, I felt that you were a champion of your love. Why, I even remarked to Mr. Petey here that this would be a short trial. I simply knew you were going to succeed. It pains me to be so harshly corrected by you. Why, I do believe you have been wasting our time.
Told you so, boss. Told you this guy was a chump, Petey chimed in,
happily shedding misery on Blaine. One more test, Mr. Kellerman. I do implore you to try on this last one. It is of little secret at this point that you have utterly disappointed King Tobit. However, in his infinite mercy and wisdom, he will grant you one final trial. However, it will not be simple. Pinkerton waved his arms one more time, and Blaine found himself in a hospital. Not any hospital, though. Rather, the very hospital where his wife was silently wasting away in her sleep. Standing next to him, Petey. The voice of Pinkerton filled the halls. Gentlemen, this is a simple foot race. The finish line is Christine Kellerman. Now, Mr. Kellerman, it is your simple trial to reach your beloved wife before Mr. Petey. In your hands you will notice a cup of her favorite hot chocolate. Bring it to her. Help her wake up. After all, your wife's very words professed that she can simply never wake up without her drink. Should Petey reach your wife first, well, let's just say you don't want that to happen. He is a very nasty man, and I doubt a woman in a coma would deter his more, let us say, primal urges. Gentlemen, we shall begin when Mr. Kellerman declares that he is ready. Blaine gathered all of his concentration. He knew there was a trick here. Regardless of how fair Pinkerton swore this would be, every single trial had been rigged. He knew that. This one would be no different. He looked down at the cup of hot chocolate, and that was when inspiration hit. "Okay, I'm ready," Blaine shouted. Without hesitation, Blaine turned and slung the hot chocolate into Petey's face, causing the large man to drop to his knees and grasp his face. Blaine didn't wait to enjoy his suffering, though. He bolted down the hall towards the stairs. "Mr. Kellerman, what about her hot chocolate?" the voice of Pinkerton echoed. "If you really knew me as well as you claim to, you would know that every day I visit her hospital room, and every day I bring a packet of hot chocolate mix. There is plenty of it in her room," Blaine shouted, almost laughing as he ran. "Finally, the noble husband is playing to win," the voice of Pinkerton answered. Blaine made a sharp turn into the stairwell, but could hear the heavy footfalls of Petey only inches behind. He was halfway up the first flight when a hand grasped his ankle, pulling him down. Blaine wasted no time smashing the mug over Petey's head. The large man grunted in pain, and Blaine delivered a swift kick to his face, causing him to tumble down the short flight of stairs. "Why, you smashed the mug, Mr. Kellerman. However will she drink it?"
"What, you think I bring hot chocolate packets without a mug? Her favourite mug has been sitting in her hospital room for months now,"
Blaine announced, feeling for the first time hopeful. "Well now, Mr. Kellerman, Perhaps we have all underestimated you. Blaine made it to the 4th floor. Petey was hot on his trail, but he knew his wife's room, room 416, through the door and to the right, directly past the nurse's station. Blaine was now running with all his might. Christine was so close now, all he had to do was round the corner and he'd be there. Then, disaster struck. A sharp pain, far too intense to be anything other than a blade, slashed into his hip, Petey wielding a knife. Blaine collapsed, blood quickly caked his pants. He attempted to stand up, but could put no weight on his leg. He was cut deep. Crawl to her, he grunted, but was quickly planted on the floor by Petey's boot. So sorry there, pal. You thought you were cute with that little hot chocolate in my face, but old Petey is in this to win. The burly man spoke directly into Blaine's face, his sour breath and body odour seeming to hammer in his haunts. Your wifey in there is going to make a great little prize, now isn't she? I promise you though, old Petey is going to take real good care of her. Until they pulled the plug anyway. Enjoy the red star. With that, Petey walked into Christine's room, and Blaine found himself back in the tent. Petey was standing next to Pinkerton, who no longer seemed charming or cultured. Now he looked hungry. Well, Mr. Kellerman, I do believe that concludes our trials. You did your best, as pitiful as your best turned out to be. However, the contest was presented and delivered in a fair manner, with all rules enforced. You simply failed. Now, prepare yourself. Blaine's world began to fade. He began to smell burning flesh. The heat of the burning star began to grow. The world phased between the tent and the red star. Reality shifting, Blaine had time to cast his final thoughts to Christine. How proud she was of him. How much they loved each other. Their first date, their wedding day. He even supported Blaine when he worked in dead-end jobs, such as when he was a legal copywriter for Harrah's Casino. That job paid barely enough to keep the lights on. But they always had their love, and what more light could anyone need? And to think, a man whose entire career was once built around proofing contracts and finding loopholes. Loopholes are legal. Loopholes are a bending of the rules. That's how Blaine had risen in the corporate ranks, got moved up to the executive wing of the casino's legal department, winning with loopholes. One final appeal. Wait! Blaine screamed. Oh, what now, Mr. Kellerman? Are you going to tell us how you deserve another chance? Because of love or faith or some other pathetic mortal platitude? No, I'm going to tell you how I won, Blaine stated in a very matter-of-fact voice. By all means, Mr. Kellerman, do tell. Pinkerton had cast aside the southern charm. He now had the spite and tone of, well, damn it all, he sounded like a lawyer. You told me at the beginning of all this that in order to claim my prize a wager was required, correct? Of course. Do hurry along with this, answered Pinkerton. You also insisted that successful and motivated attempts at each of the trials were necessary in claiming the prize, correct? Pinkerton didn't answer, but simply twirled his fingers in that go-on gesture. Finally, you stated that terms in this contest were of the most literal sense, correct? That what we say in this contest directly affects the rules and guidelines, correct? Yes, Mr. Kellerton. I am well aware of the rules of the very contest that Blaine stood, cutting him off. Then Petey lost. Petey goes, not me. What? You little shit. You little cunt.
How dare you try and... Petey was cut off this time.
How did Petey lose in a contest for your heart's desire? Demanded Pinkerton.
On the last test, when we were in the hospital, Petey told me that he would claim Christine. By your very own policy, one must play the game in order to claim the prize, and the wager in the game is always the person's soul, Blaine announced.
Mr. Kellerman, you're rambling now.
Trying to avoid, Blaine cut him off again. Petey didn't participate in half of the challenges, but even if all of that is void, even if only the last challenge mattered, Petey didn't bring my wife her hot chocolate. He failed, and since there is a wager on the board, there must be a declared winner. Since Petey failed at the contest, since he disqualified himself, that would make me the runner-up, the winner. That would be me.
Nice try, Mr. Kellerman. But do you recall? You had hot chocolate in the room, along with her favorite mug. You said so yourself, shouted Pinkerton.
But did he make the chocolate? Did he complete the task? Blaine demanded.
Of course he did. He knows that's such.
Pinkerton was cut off one more time. I am not asking you, Pinky. I am asking him. Blaine Balsand, pointing directly at the small statue of Hyrac Tobit. King Tobit, you called for a test. You called for true will and strength. I delivered. Surely you do not care about watching a mortal remember a first date location, or pick out an item, or even race through a hospital with a mug of Swiss Miss. You wanted to know if I was worthy. Well, I wager it all now. I will wager my soul that Petey is lying. He never made the drink. He failed. If I am wrong, I give you my soul willingly. And since your honest agent, Mr. Pinky over there, was so quick to vouch for Petey, I am quite sure that he will happily wager his soul that he is telling the truth. So how about it, King Tobit? Can a simple mortal stand on his convictions and truly be willing to give anything for your favour? Pinkerton fell silent. He knew that he had been bested. Should he bet against Blaine, he knew that he would lose, as he knew that Petey never made the chocolate. Goodbye, Mr. Petey.
Enjoy eternity,
Pinkerton mumbled, sounding very defeated. What? No, you little fuck. You can't do this to me. I've been loyal to you. You're letting this little piece of shit manipulate... Those were Petey's final words, as he vanished into the fire and suffering that was awaiting on the Red Star.
Well now, Mr. Kellerman, well done. Well done indeed. It took you until the very end, but you finally understood what it was to risk everything. You honoured your words. You were very willing to do anything, give anything, to have your wife back.
Pinkerton sounded totally deflated. Perhaps he had hoped for Blaine to lose, or maybe he was just attached to Petey. Who knew? So, is it over? Is Christine going to awaken? Blaine uttered.
My word is my bond, Mr. Kellerman. You have gained Hyrac Tobit's favour. Your wish is granted. Enjoy the rest of your life.
Pinkerton placed a hand over Blaine's face, and Blaine collapsed to the ground. The ringing of his cell phone brought Blaine back to reality. He was on his couch. He was having some sort of nightmare. Something about an evil little man playing games for souls. He reached over and picked up the phone. It was Maggie, no doubt calling to tell Blaine she had won another legal battle to hasten Christine's death. He pushed the receive button on the phone. "What do you want, Maggie?" he asked with little emotion. The excitement and squeal of her voice caused Blaine to hold the phone away from his head for a moment.
"Oh my God, Blaine! It's Christine! You'll never believe it. She opened her eyes today. Just opened them up. She sat up, stretched and yawned, and she's back. I don't know how it happened, but she's awake and talking, and she just thinks she's been asleep."
Blaine was floored.
His hands were shaking. Are you serious, Maggie? You're not fucking with me here? Never. Never about this. Oh, Blaine. Thank you so much for defending her. I mean, Mom and Dad nearly fainted when she woke up. I mean, to think we wanted to... Maggie was now weeping. Anyway, Blaine, hurry up and get your ass down here. She's been asking for you all morning, Maggie exclaimed. Of course. My God, of course. Let me get my car. I'll be there in a few minutes. Blaine hung up and bent over to get his shoes. He noticed they were already on his feet. He'd fall asleep with them. He didn't have time to care, nor did he notice that there were bits of grass on his shoes and mud stains on his pants. He had no memory of the tent or Mr. Pinkerton. He only had a vague feeling of a strange nightmare. But now he was filled with far too much joy to think of anything other than getting to the hospital and seeing his wife again. Blaine climbed into the car and began to back out of his driveway when he noticed an item sitting on the passenger seat. It was a mug, a simple white mug. It had a few cracks running through it, as though it had been shattered at some point. Inside the mug was a folded note. Blaine read it. Don't forget the hot chocolate, Mr. Kellerman, and don't forget that you are one of the few men in the world that can say he did anything for the one he loved. Enjoy your life, love your wife, Hail Tobit. Yours, Mr. Pinky. Blaine examined the note a moment longer. Tobit, Pinky. It sounded like something from a childhood daydream. Either way, he had no time to dwell on it. He backed out of the driveway and drove to the hospital to see his wife. Oh God, that was a long and intense one. I hope you liked that one. That was really interesting. I like that one. I hope you don't mind. I will be grabbing a 10 to 15 minute break because I need to grab myself a nice warm drink, stretch my legs, and use the bathroom. Dragons have to use the bathroom too. Oh, why is my thingy being weird? Oh, I don't know. Streamlabs is being strange. Who knows? Oh, there we go. Some of my Discord reacts were just showing up, even though nobody's in them. There we go. Oh yes, Nicole, NJ came with all the gift subs 50. I was very shook. I hope you enjoyed that. That one was really, really fun. I hope I did Mr. Pinky's voice justice, to be honest. I will be just heading into a break for briefly. So go and grab yourself what you need as well, guys. Thank you guys for sticking with me for so long. I do have about a few more stories to do when I get back, which will be super fun because it's Friday and I'm enjoying myself with you guys. So, yay! But I need to rest my voice for just a minute and get a nice drink and go to the bathroom. You know, dragon needs and all that fun stuff. I'll see you guys in a moment.
Hi. Oh, had to compose myself for a moment. Rest for a minute. Scroll through some Twitter. I hope you enjoyed that story with me. While I'm still resting and having a drink and pouring some pop out. Tell me your thoughts for those who did hear the story. Did you like it? I'd love comments on my Mr. Pinky voice. That was I was trying a new voice out. I'm still not great with my southern, so I'm hoping that sounded okay for Mr. Pinky. I like getting feedback. Popped it. Yes, and we did have a nice increase of gift sub from NJ, so he's now took first place on my board, followed by Scott and Paolo, so that's super cool. Hi, Lion. How are you? I hope work's okay for you. Don't work too hard. And Nicole, yes, of course. Yeah, NJ gifted you a nice sub, sweetie. Very, very generous. There may be a clip somewhere around later on of me freaking out earlier in server. I've just noticed my sub goal bar says 69, so nice. Yes, I'm hoping you guys are all doing well. I get so invested in the story sometime. Today is your chill day at work. Oh, so it was a slow day at work. You did say that if it was chill, you'd swing by my stream. And I'm super happy you did. Welcome to Raven's Hollow in all my glory. At the moment, we have, you know, my little bunnies and teddy bears around. Tomorrow, this will be filled with crazy guests for the Pick Your Poison stream, which will be super fun, and I can't wait. Oh, Lion, I did receive today the lipstick thingy and the mascara you bought off my throne as well. That arrived today, so thank you for those. I'm dreading Christmas. Y'all are gonna just like go have at the, which is gonna be fun. But yes, I hope it's been a nice chill day for you at work. It's been quite relaxing here. And yes, Lion, I am taking care of myself. You know, I took my pain meds, so cramps are doing well. So, and I'm all sitting comfortably in my pajamas and enjoying myself. I've had chocolate, I've had snacks and sweeties. And I have more coming now from my throne in the coming days. So I'm going to be a very happy dragon and a very full dragon. But we have more stories. I hope you're ready. Who's lurking in my chat today? I want to give you guys hellos. I see you in here. I'm going to give you a lovely hellos. Hello, Violet. I figured out why those went through as anonymous. Oh, you did? I knew it was you. I knew you got them for me. Thank you. Yes. But let's have a see who's in chat today and give you all love and support, because I love you all. So starting at the bottom, hello Violet's TV, how are you, darling? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping with me today. Mwah. The next one we have is the SSGD server. Hello, sweetie. Mwah, you get kisses too. Social streamer growth. Mwah, kisses for you. Hello, how are you? Hello, Reaper. No, don't jiggle and squish me, dude, but mwah, you get kisses too.
We got Rogue. Hello, darling. Hello. Mwah, kisses for you. Profanity is my favorite cup of tea, darling. Hello, sweetie. Mwah, kisses. And then we have Jack Wrathful. Hello, my darling. Mwah, kisses for you from Nozomi. And then we've got Syndica. Hello, I love your name. Mwah, kisses. And then we've got Commander Root. Ooh, that's a nice name, Commander Sir. Mwah, kisses. And we got Lion, my favorite lion. Mwah, kisses. Love you, sweetie. And we got another viewer. Mwah, hiya, sweetie. Bestie, Anime Lover 69. Hello, sweetie. Kisses from my favorite Scottish Eggy. We got Alice Edra. Hello. Mwah, I love your name. And we've got Academy Impossible. Mwah, hello, darlings. I appreciate every single one of you. It updated and added a toggle for anonymous or named. Oh, the default. I had a feeling it was you. You didn't deny it, though. But yes, thank you. I do hope you know some of those are definitely bots. Possibly are, but still. They all get kisses. They all get kisses, that's fine. But it's okay. I'm still learning. Commander Root is a well-known bot. Though it's not a bad bot. Okay. Do I need to ban it, Lion, or is it good? Wait. I'm still learning. Don't know where my mod Joey's gone either. He went for a walk and he vanished. But yes. That's fine. But we have some more stories, so you get to listen to one of my stories. You've probably been lurking, but that's okay. So this one is called The Crawl Space. And this one's by Madame Macabre. I'll look into it and stuff. I'll have my mods do some looking for me because they've been slacking lately. So it's just a Nozomi run show sometimes. Hi there. I guess you could say I'm writing this as a cautionary tale to those who plan on studying abroad in future. I don't mean to discourage you from it in the first place. It's more like I just want you to be aware of this so that something like this doesn't happen to you too. I guess I should explain a little bit. Last summer, I was selected to participate in the study abroad program that would be centered in Rome for several months. Like anyone would be, I was elated. I had never been out of the States before, so this was going to be a real adventure for me. In the weeks that followed, I happily packed anything and everything I could fit into my suitcase. I will be the first to admit that I had way overpacked for this trip. I was nervous about leaving my parents for the first time, but I was also excited for newfound freedom. I would have while in Europe. Before I knew it, my parents were dropping me off at the airport and I was boarding a 13-hour flight to Rome. Despite being long and tedious, the flight wasn't all that bad. When I exited the airport, I was greeted by the program supervisor and several other students who would be studying with me. They were all about the same age and all looked just as excited as me. From there, we went to a mandatory orientation meeting, and afterwards we went to pick up our apartment keys. In the months that preceded the trip, we were responsible for getting to know our would-be roommates, as well as finding a place to stay that we could all afford. There were 3 girls I would be staying with. They were all nice enough and made an effort to make me feel welcome, though I will admit it's a bit hard to get close to a group of pre-formed friends. But despite my slight alienation, it seemed that things were all going to work out well. All of us were on a similar budget plan, and by that I mean none of us really had much money to spend. Because of this, we were all on the same page while searching for the cheapest apartment we could find. After several days of searching, we stumbled across an ad for an ancient apartment located above the Campo de Fiora. There was a prime location, and we couldn't believe that it was still available, no less listed for an unbelievably low price. This immediately set alarm bells off in my head. This place was enormous, yet the rent was cheaper than for much smaller apartments in a far less desirable part of town. However, reason never really wins out in a group of excited young women. They had already made up their minds, and if I would be staying with them, this was my only option. We each received our own set of keys, as well as a map with walking directions. Because of the prime location, it really didn't take us long to get there. The Campo was amazing. During the daytime, it was filled with a vibrant market, while during the evening, it was lined with lively street performers. All of the apartments surrounding it looked to be ancient, so ours really didn't stand out that much. After circling the square 3 or 4 times, we finally noticed the numbers nailed on the front of the massive old wooden door. This would be our home for the next 3 months. I fought with my keys for a moment until there was an audible click of the heavy old lock. The thick old door swung forward with a screech. We were then met with a long, winding staircase. We all looked at one another and groaned. None of us had accounted for the fact that the building had been constructed before elevators. Common. So 3 sets of stairs and countless complaints later, all 4 of us, with luggage in hand, stood outside our new front door. Once again, I reached for my set of keys and fought with the stubborn lock. As soon as the front door was opened, there was a stampede of young women trying to claim the best rooms. Being a 3-bedroom apartment, it meant that 2 of us would have to share. I personally didn't care, so I let the others battle it out. When the dust was settled, I found that I would be sharing a room with a girl called Stephanie. That was fine with me. Stephanie was nice enough, and she was also very quiet, my ideal feature in a roommate. Over the course of the day, we ran around exploring our new home. There were 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen, and a living room with an ancient TV. Once again, I began to feel uneasy. Just how was it that we were able to get all of this for such a low price? But before I could finish the thought, I was interrupted by a fit of loud squealing. My initial reaction was to panic. However, I soon learned that all the noise was from excitement. Down at the other end of the apartment, near the front door, apparently there was another part of the flat we had missed. I followed the noise until it led me to a long, dark hallway. There, at the end, behind the group of squealing women, was a washing and drying machine. For those of you thinking, what's the big deal? I should explain that these things are incredibly rare in Rome. Generally, exchange students have to wash their clothes by hand in the sink before hanging them to dry. What was a luxury item like this doing in such a cheap apartment? Just as the screaming quelled, it picked right back up again as the girls noticed the door adjacent to the washing machine. Beyond the door was a master bathroom. It had a balcony, a clawfoot bathtub, and even a bidet. The girls immediately started fighting over whose bathroom this was going to be. I didn't really see why we couldn't share, but apparently the others were dead set on having ownership. As it turned out, it ended up being my bathroom. Stephanie had made a logical argument that because she and I had to share a bedroom, while the other 2 got their own, it was only fair that she and I got to share the master bath. And I'll admit that at first I was actually kind of excited. It was, after all, a really nice room. However, over the course of the next several weeks, I began to grow more and more wary of the room. I don't know how to put it into words. It's like every time I went into the room, I could feel eyes on me. And the voyeurist element wasn't really what had me so unnerved. It felt like whatever was watching me was angry that it didn't want me there, and that it wanted to hurt me. I began doing everything in my power to avoid the room. I asked Alicia if she would mind if I were to use her bathroom occasionally. I made up a lame excuse about how it was far more convenient since her room was so close, while my bathroom was at the other end of the flat, at the end of the very long hallway. She happily agreed when I told her that she could use my bathroom any time she liked. This worked well for a while. For the first 2 months of my trip, I was able to completely avoid the airy room. It wasn't until the final month that everything began to unravel. One night, as I prepared to brush my teeth, I found that Alicia was already occupying her bathroom. I could hear giggles coming from down the hallway. It was clear both Stephanie and our other roommate were both getting ready for bed in the master bath. I decided that since there was strength in numbers, it would be all right just for tonight. So I made my way down to the larger bathroom, where I joined the boisterous girls in brushing my teeth. They were in the midst of some conversation with Lindsay, our other roommate. Had broken into such a furious fit of laughter, and she had to lean on the wall for support. But suddenly, she jolted upright as if she'd been shocked. We all looked at what had been the cause of her reaction. There, on the wall, about the same level as the bathtub, was a tiny door just small enough for a person to squeeze through. None of us had noticed it because it was the same colour as the wall. The landlord had even painted over it. Naturally, this made me a bit nervous. Whatever it was, the landlord clearly didn't want anyone opening it. But throwing all caution to the wind as usual, Lindsay reached for the handle and began tugging it with all her might. Stephanie clicked her tongue in disapproval before pulling out a small pocket knife. She began delicately carving along the seam of the door. I wanted to beg her to stop, but I really didn't have the energy to argue that night. So within a few minutes, Lindsay had yanked the little door open with a loud crack. It was a crawl space. It was fairly large. My guess would have been you could have fit at least 3 or 4 people in there. I was rather curious as to why the landlord would have sealed up an empty room. Stephanie and Lindsay began calling for Alicia to come and see their new discovery. She was just as excited as they were when they first discovered it. However, as could be expected, this excitement waned over time, and eventually the crawl space was just turned into storage for a few towels and laundry baskets. In the following days after the unsealing of the crawl space, things started to go from eerie to downright terrifying. Annoyingly, Alicia had changed her nightly routine so that I could no longer use her bathroom in the evenings. Once again, I was back in the large bathroom. All the while, the feeling that I was being watched grew worse and worse. I began to get so paranoid each time I went into that room that I would literally jump at the slightest noise of pipes settling, and as soon as I was finished, I would run at full speed down the hallway and close the door behind me. For some reason, I seemed to be the only one feeling this way. It's not like I could have told the other girls either. I was already enough of an outcast as it was. So I just kept to myself and hoped it would go away eventually. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I found myself alone in the bathroom. As I stood in front of the mirror brushing my teeth, something set the hairs on the back of my neck straight up. There was a faint rustling noise, not the kind that could have been caused by my roommates at the other end of the flat. Any noises caused by them would have to have been quite loud to reach me all the way at the end of the long hallway. No, this noise was very faint, the sound of someone gingerly shuffling things around. I stood completely silent, terror filling me. The soft rustling coming from inside the crawl space. I turned on my heels and ran down the hall to grab the attention of my roommates. I tried to explain to them what happened, but all that came out were incoherent murmurs. Eventually, I managed to stutter, Something's inside the crawl space. They looked at me with fear and confusion in their eyes. As a pack, we moved together down the hallway into the bathroom. I nearly fainted when I saw the tiny door hanging fully ajar. Though this discovery filled me with horror, Alicia immediately pointed to the balcony sliding door. Stephanie had left it open to air out the bathroom after having taken a shower several hours ago. She peeked her head out the door and pointed to the slanted rooftop adjacent to ours. There was a pigeon nest occupied by a few birds. The girl surmised that a pigeon must have found its way in and was the cause of the disturbance. They all had a good laugh as we made our way back to the living room. I pretended to shake it off, but I knew it was not a pigeon that caused the rustling noise. First off, a tiny door had been shut tight all day. None of us really cared to leave it open because it smelled quite musty inside. And secondly, the door had been shut when I left the bathroom. I'm certain of this. Yet, there it was, wide open when I returned. You're not going to tell me that a pigeon knows how to and is able to open and close a door all by itself. It was at this point that I began to suspect that something was terribly wrong with the apartment. When I got back to my room, I pulled out my laptop and called my best friend via Skype. She'd always been the skeptical and methodical type. However, she also kept an open mind toward things that were hard to explain. I decided that out of anyone, she was probably the best to talk to about my situation. As I expected, she was initially quite doubtful, though she also agreed with me that a pigeon was quite likely not the source. She asked me if I had any photos of the crawl space. She said that if she could see it, that would help her to understand a little more clearly and possibly help her to come up with a more logical explanation. Relieved at her willingness to at least hear me out, I reached for my camera and made my way back down to the eerie hallway. When I arrived, I found, to my relief, the door was still closed. I stood in front of it for a moment, gathering the nerve before finally pulling the little door open. Other than the clutter left inside by my roommates, it was now empty. I snapped a quick photo before closing the door once more and running back to my room. I immediately plugged the camera into my computer and uploaded the photo. When I finally opened the image, I was petrified by what I saw. There, in the upper right-hand corner, the face, baring its teeth at me. My whole body began violently shaking. Dear God, things in our home, I muttered to myself. Fear began to overtake me. Someone had sealed whatever it was inside of that crawl space, and we had let it out. I was so absorbed in my panic, I didn't even notice when my roommate returned. She was so blissfully unaware of the imminent danger we were in. Yet, even if I tried to warn her, she would not believe me. I was at a loss of what to do, and finally decided that I would deal with it in the morning. Though, not by a large amount, I did feel braver in the sunlight. I attempted to get some sleep. For the first time since being there, I closed and bolted my door before getting into bed. Stephanie eyed me suspiciously while I did this, but I just told her jokingly that Lindsay had been sneaking into our room the previous nights and had been stealing my Nutella. She laughed heartily, shaking her head before settling down for the night. I will admit that the only reason I was able to find any sleep that night was because of her presence. Something about not being alone can give one a sense of false security. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning when the sound woke me. I'd always been a light sleeper, so the faint noise was enough to stir me. It sounded like a door being pushed open at the other end of the flat, followed by footsteps. These weren't normal footsteps, they were far too fast. It sounded like someone was running at full speed from the foyer to the living room and all about the apartment. These weren't heavy footfalls, like the kind you would expect from a running person. They were very light, almost unnaturally so. My initial reaction was to assume it was either Alicia or Lindsay, so I got up and stuck my ear to the wall behind me that separated Lindsay's room from mine. I could hear her faint but steady breathing. She was clearly asleep, so it wasn't her. I then crossed over to the other side of the room near the door, once again stuck my ear to the wall. Alicia's snoring was quite audible, so there's no way it was her. I slowly began to grow fearful as I turned in the last resort to see if Stephanie had perhaps gotten up, but I could plainly see her resting form silently rising up and down. A shiver went down my spine, and I nearly screamed when I realised the footsteps had come to a stop outside my door. Despite all the lights being out, I could see the looming dark shadow of a form through the tiny crack at the foot of my door. I dared not move. Whatever it was just standing there, waiting. Then, to my horror, my doorknob slowly began to jiggle, gently at first, and then growing violent at the realization of it being locked. The noise of it eventually woke my roommate. She sat up, blinking in confusion. That instant of jiggling of the doorknob stopped. She asked me just what the hell I was doing, and if I knew what time it was. I told her it wasn't me. I told her that whoever had opened the door in the crawl space the previous day had come back. She just furrowed her brow at me and said that I needed to get more sleep. The next day, I made an appointment with my program supervisor. I told him that I just needed to go home. He tried to tell me that I was just homesick and that it would pass, but I insisted. He eventually gave up and let me call my parents. They were confused but understanding. They were able to change the date of my return flight to the following morning. I really wanted to get out of there that day. Understandably, that was the soonest they could manage. Unfortunately, this meant that I would have to stay one more night in the apartment. When I returned, I tried to tell the others about what had been going on. I knew I was going to be getting out of there and would be out of danger, but I was still worried for their safety. But none of them took me seriously. They looked at me as if I was a madwoman. They didn't say anything, but I was sure they all thought I was going home because of some sort of mental breakdown. At that point, there was nothing I could say that could convince them. So that night, I locked my door and hesitantly went to bed. And, right on cue, once again, around 2 o'clock in the morning, I was awoken by the rapid footsteps scampering around the apartment. I could hear the door to the bathroom begin to creak open, followed by the door at the end of the hallway. The footsteps grew louder and faster as they moved through the apartment, and finally, once more, they came to a pause outside of my door. I could hear breathing this time, slow and heavy. I sat up in panic. And to my horror, I saw that Stephanie had forgot to lock the door behind her, after getting up to use the bathroom. It was right outside my door, and I did not know if I had time to jump up to try to lock it before the thing realised there was nothing blocking its way. I hesitated a moment too long, and by the time I had sat up straight in my bed, the handle slowly began to turn. I froze in terror as the door cracked open, revealing my tormentor. It stood there, ominously, in the doorway, staring me down. Its eyes protruded slightly from its skull and gave off a very faint bluish light. It didn't appear to have a nose, only slits where the nostrils should have been. It had the teeth of a man, but had no lips, giving it the impression of an eternally toothy snarl. Its greyish-white skin was waxy, stretched tight over its bony face. The rest of its skeletal form was hard to make out, as it was almost entirely enveloped in shadows. After pausing for a moment in the doorway, it began to head toward me. As it moved, its body let out a sickening cracks. I sat there, still petrified by fear, until it had made its way to the foot of my bed. Its heavy breaths were deafeningly loud. I don't know how Stephanie slept through it. The air had begun to smell sour, stagnant. With frightening speed, it jolted to the other end of the bed, mere feet from me. I gagged at the smell of it, like sulphur and rotting flesh. Slowly, it unfurled one of its long, gnarly hands and proceeded to reach for me. Not until it was several inches away did I finally find my voice. I screamed as loudly as I possibly could, and it halted in its tracks. Stephanie shot up from the bed, visibly frightened. The creature hunched over on all fours and fled from the room with unsettling movements that recalled those of a spider. A moment later, Stephanie switched the light on and looked at me furiously. She demanded to know what the fuss was all about. I told her exactly what had happened. She just called me a nutcase. The taxi came to pick me up very early the next morning. The sun had not even risen by the time it arrived. None of the girls came to see me off, but I expected this. After loading my luggage into the truck, I climbed into the back seat of the old cab. It had driven right through the square and was sitting at the base of my apartment. When I leaned to look out the window, I could see where my room had been. My face contorted into a mix of panic and concern. There, looking out of my old window, the creature. Its unblinking eyes bored into me, and its lipless mouth curled into a snarling grin. Before I could say anything, the cab driver took off, leaving the hell house far behind. I tried to warn them. I really did. I did everything in my power to try to warn them of the danger they were in, but none of them listened to me. There was no way I could have stopped what happened after I returned home. You see, several weeks after returning to the United States, I received a phone call from the program director. He informed me that a day before the program ended, all 3 of my past roommates had been reported missing. The authorities had no idea just how long they had been actually gone, as they were only recently discovered to be missing, and the program director went to check on them after none of them made it to the end of the program wrap-up meeting. They assumed it had been at least a week or 2, since all the food in the apartment was expired. There was no sign of forced entry, and no valuables were missing. The only notable detail mentioned in the report was that when they arrived on the scene, there was a strange little door hanging ajar in the bathroom, and when they approached it, they were met with a powerful odour coming from no visible source. The official report has declared as missing, but I know they're all dead. I know that I'm incredibly lucky to have made it out with my life. I think the only reason I'm still alive today is because I fled thousands of miles and across an ocean. Despite their unwillingness to listen, I still feel an unimaginable amount of guilt over what happened to those girls. That's why I'm writing this now. I may not be able to go back in time to save them, but maybe I can prevent this from happening to you. Please, please heed my warning. If you ever get the opportunity to study abroad, keep this in mind. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And whatever you do, don't stay on the 3rd floor of an ancient yellow apartment complex above the Campo de Fiori. Something there. Something evil. Oh, that one was a good one. I have one more story for you tonight, my lovelies. Before we go and raid a lovely VTuber I have spotted on my travels. Let's brighten things up a bit. Oh, I'm singing My Sunshine. Oh, okay. And a little immersion break. I gotta get my lyrics up, my guy. Sure. Let me have a look-see. Oh, a nice drink. Okay. For you, Paolo, I will sing it for you. Might be a little croaky, but we'll give it a go today. Okay. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and I cried. Oh, my sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
I hope you like that. It's a bit croaky, but I'm okay. Oh. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Paolo. I do have one story left to share with you for the evening before it's time to raid out and share our gremlin energy with someone else. So I hope you are prepared. This one is called That Thing Up There by Well Hay Productions. There it is again, that slow, high-pitched metal rattle followed by a soft whimper. It is really starting to freak me out at this point. I know there is something up there, but I'm too scared to look. I've been hiding here all night and it just stays up there. If I could only see the clock from where I am, I would feel much better knowing how much longer before it leaves. It always seems to leave in the morning, but stays all night long, always above me. It is relentless. I loathe it. The rattle creeps through the air once more, followed by an even louder whimper, almost a sob this time, and then gasp. I look out and see something pink and furry bounce in front of me. I recoil back to safety at this thing's attack, but after it comes to a stop, it refuses to move. I look at it again, and I can see its cold, black, lifeless eyes gaze into my soul, tempting me to come out, but I cannot. I am too afraid. The sob is now followed by what sounds like crying. The rattle becomes much louder, as whatever is up there is much more agitated than before. The rattle persists and the crying gets louder. Whatever is up there is just attempting to coax me out of my hiding spot, but I cannot. It will hurt me. It will kill me. I am trapped under its constant torment the entire evening. I exhale as I come to terms with my fate. As I do, the rattling suddenly stops. The sobbing stops. The movement stops. I realise that whatever is up there now knows that I am down here. It's only a matter of time before it comes for me. I need to act quickly. I need a plan. I need to think. But it is too late. Quickly as the rattling and crying has stopped, there is one more rattle as the creature up there makes a very quick jerking movement, and all I can do is wait for the inevitable. Then, in a high-pitched squeal, the creature screams at the top of its lungs, "Mommy! Mommy, there's a monster under my bed!" And that is the end of our Friday Fright Night stories. I really hoped you liked that one. That was a really nice perspective of a monster under the bed. I think that was quite cute, actually. Or monsters just trying to vibe. There we go. But I have it bookmarked, ready to continue our future Fright Friday next week, which will be super fun. In 2 weeks from now, I will be hosting the first ever Smash or Pass in the Ravens Hollow. You'll find my tweet for that pinned at the top of my Twitter. So if you want to take part, be sure to drop your PNGs in there. So I'm super excited and I can't wait for tomorrow's stream. You have a very, very nice storytelling voice. Thank you, Lion. That's appreciates a lot. Thank you. I do enjoy telling stories. It's the voice. Apparently people like the voice. But yes, tomorrow at 9 p.m. UK time, so I think 3 p.m. CST and 4 p.m. EST. I'm not sure about other time zones. I will be hosting a very chaotic stream with 6 lovely VTubers tomorrow. While we play the After Dark edition of Pick Your Poison. So there will be NSFW themes and dark themes in there. So that's an early disclaimer. I will remind people on Twitter as well tomorrow morning. I want to say a big thank you to Paolo, Scott, and NJ for all the gift subs today and the biddies and the support. You guys have actually been amazing. And for those new friends, you can find my links in the chat. My Twitter is also on my Twitch page. I'm glad, Paula, you've had a lovely time. I really appreciate you coming. I don't get to see you too often because of your work schedule, so I'm really glad you got to stop by one of my streams. Always makes my day. We are going to be raiding a lovely new streamer I was informed of this morning, and I was like, I can't not go and give this lovely darling some love. So I want you all to go there and tell her that Nozomi sent you, obviously, and go show Mars some love today. They're playing some Pokemon, so bit of nice Pokemon, but I thought let's go and shower them full of love, which would be nice. I want to thank you again. I've had such a really good stream today, and I hope you'll join me for more Fright Fridays and future streams, especially tomorrow's stream. I look forward to seeing a lot of you there, and we get to have a lot of fun with our guests. And chat can also take part in our After Dark Would You Rather Pick Your Poison. I always like to include you guys. So I want to give you all a big goodbyes and a good night from me. But please stick around for the raid. Always helps go show someone else some support. So we're going to go raid Marzi. So I will see you all again tomorrow. So take care, lovelies. Bye bye.